Yep. Okay. Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Myself, CA Mahesh Khandekar. I would like to welcome the chairman, young and dynamic chairman of Pimpri Chinchwad branch of WIRC, Mr. Vijay Kumar Jagannath Bamne. Sir, please give the opening remarks for the session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here to give my opening remark for this very important webinar, Global Trends in Internal Audits, a Look Ahead, organized by Internal Audit Standard Board of ICAI and hosted by our branch, that is Pimpri Chinchwad branch of WRC of ICAI. I welcome CA Charanjit Singh Nanda sir, Chairman of Internal Audit Board, ICAI. CA Chandrasekhar Chitle sir, Member of Internal Audit Standard Board and also Chairman of Direct Tax Committee. CA Gyan Chandra Mishra sir, Vice Chairman of Internal Audit Standard Board of ICAI. I also welcome our respected today's speaker, CA Rahul Jindal sir, for the topic incorporating forensic audit techniques and internal audits. CA PG Subramaniam sir, for the topic internal audit, a perspective. CA Dr. Paul Zeiker sir, for the topic mobile devices security. And also welcome to all my dear professional friends on this virtual platform. Friends, nowadays, so many challenges are there to build a practice in internal audit. Now, time has come to think, make changes, and adopt global trends in internal audit to develop our practice and give a quality service to our client. One motivational English quote says, change begins at the end of your comfort zone. Hence, our team, along with Internal Audit Standard Board of ICAI, has decided to take this important topic for the benefit of members. Thank you very much. Wish you all a happy learning. Thank you. Over to you, Mahesh.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to welcome our own CA Chandrakant Vasan Chitale, sir. He's a Central Council member, ICAI, member of Internal Audit Board.
My name is Chandrasekhar, not Chandrakant.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My apologies, sir. Chandrasekhar Vasan Chitale, sir. Yes. To specially address the session, I would like to introduce him. A lot of things to be said about sir is, as one of the members said, His Excellency. So, sir, I would again like to introduce you to all. He's a member of Central Council of ICAI, Chairman of Direct Tax Committee ICAI, and Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industries and Agriculture, Pune, Mumbai. Chairman, Peer Review Board of Member Group of Multidisciplinary Firms of Chartered Accountants, Financial and Tax Literacy, etc. He was a former Chairman, Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee, and former Vice Chairman, Committee on Public and Government Financial Management, member of various standing and non-standing committees. He has also contributed draft textbooks which have been adopted by study material for intermediate and final curriculum of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He has written several articles in newspaper and periodicals, including the Economic Times, Chartered Accountant Journal, Management Accountant, Taxman, Sampada, Sakal Maharashtra Times, Lok Satta, etc. He has been awarded with first prize of R.T. Doshi Foundation for best article in PCAS newsletter. He had been lecturer or a visiting faculty at Garwari College of Commerce and at various management institutes. Specializes in corporate and tax counseling, corporate laws, legal drafting, and appellate practice before First Appellate Authority and Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. This was a brief introduction of Chitale sir. Over to you, Chitale sir. Please address.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, Internal Audit Standards Board, CA Charanjit Singh Nanda, and my council colleague. And at council, we are very innately blessed because of his participation and his vast experience. This Internal Audit Standards Board also for past several years has been headed by our good friend Charanjit ji, and definitely making strides. the chairman for Pimpri Chinchwad branch, young and dynamic Vijay Bamne, our faculty members, Rahul Jindal, PG Subramanyam, CA Mahesh, uh, Shivani Nigam is also co-host, Arun Agarwal ji, and the moderator. All of you, very good evening. As you are aware that days and days, the norms for the purpose of statutory audit are getting tightened up. Whether it is statutory audit for a company or for a limited liability partnership or a charitable trust, there is an onerous responsibility upon the person doing the audit. There are various other areas of practice, maybe like direct access, indirect access, but there also you need day-to-day updation. And in this whole gamut, the area of internal audit is really blessed. In a sense, if you look at the other area of practice, there the fault finding is the major domain. But here, in case of internal audit, you make value contribution. And generally, the internal auditors are more liked by the client because they suggest various means for the purpose of either controlling their expenditure or maybe certain measures that they would be able to step up their income and the efficiency. Therefore, there is a pleasure of contributing to the well-being of the company, to the well-being of the organization. And really, we have seen that internal auditors nationally and domestically and internationally have played a very good role in case of well-being of the company. In the era of corporate governance, this internal audit becomes indispensable because the first signals of any irregularity are flashed by this particular function of internal audit. Since the regulators have become more and more placid and more daunting, there are a number of disciplinary cases which are taking place for any derailment in compliance by the statutory auditors. Therefore, it has become a field of specialization. With that, nowadays, what we are witnessing, that earlier days are gone, that you are doing tax, you are doing audit, you are doing so many things. One has to specialize in a field. Then only he is able to deliver, he is live up to the expectations of the stakeholders. And internal audit is one such dynamic field where we are witnessing nowadays there is more influx of professionals because there is possibility of making contribution to the bottom line, to the better functioning, to the better reporting by the organization. And therefore, the organizations are also taking very seriously this function of internal audit. Even considering the need and importance of internal audit, under Companies Act 2013, this phenomena of internal audit has also been made mandatory. In fact, Nandabhai will recollect that 3 years ago on CA Day on 1st of July, as one of the chief guests, we had Mr. Injeti Srinivas, who was the then secretary of MCA. And he said that like for statutory audit, they have made a prescribed format that what all things the auditor has to report besides reporting on true and fair view. Presently, although the company law prescribes the internal audit as a mandatory function, there is no prescription as to the coverage of internal audit. Therefore, a thought process is already on with the MCA that whether we can also prepare an itinerary for the purpose of rendering internal audit. But let me tell you that internal audit cannot be clipped into certain box and then dogmatic reporting should follow. As far as statutory compliances and such other things is concerned, yes, the internal audit will definitely play its role. But the role of internal audit is much beyond just finding that whether compliances have been made or not. Its role also to find out the better ways in which the organization functions, whatever are the lacunas or loopholes, whatever regulatory model has been made, whatever procedures are laid down in the SOP, whether they have been followed or not, whether any procedure requires any updation, any changing. And as you know that this particular phenomena of internal auditing is a global phenomena. Therefore, always we have to look at the countries abroad and see what innovations are being made over there. As you are aware that number of innovations even by way of regulations take place. And one such example is Sarbanes and Auxiliary, where This was a private bill passed at USA. However, the reason for placement of this bill was corporate failures. So always various developments keep on happening. Various vistas are added. Now forensic audit is one more opening which has come up. So I'm sure that this particular webinar will certainly take us through the various aspects of the modern way, modern techniques in which the internal audit can be conducted, and rather than being just a fault finder, how a contribution can be made. In case of forensic audit, in case of trends in countries abroad, you will come to know the latest developments. Besides latest developments, we also have to think that whatever is vogue in foreign countries, whether we can incorporate in our small way, because most of the small and medium practitioners at times are not aware of these things. So after becoming aware, they can also think, consider the clientele list which they are today having, and how these services can be rendered to those clients. And also, if you have better techniques, not only your clientele list will remain what it is, it will also increase, because your deliverance has given more value addition, and that can be demonstrated to the others. I compliment Internal Audit Standards Board under the chairmanship of CA Charanjot Singh Nanda, and where vice chairman is my another good friend from Ghaziabad, who is also, I don't think he has joined, but both of them are spearheading this particular committee in good manner. I also compliment Pimpri-Chinchwad branch, where maximum industries are housed in this Pimpri-Chinchwad belt. And this is the most opportune branch to join this particular webinar. So I'm sure that with the help of Internal Audit Standard Board, the Pimpri-Chinchwad branch will be able to organize many more programs, and this particular program would be a great value addition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to invite CA Charanjot Singh Nanda, sir, to give a welcome note to the session. He is a chairman of Internal Audit Standard Board, ICAI. He is a Central Council member, 25th Council of ICAI. He is a vice chairman of Banking, Financial Services and Insurance Committee. He was the member of Quality Review Board set up by the Government of India. Was a member of Central Council from 2004 to 2016 of ICAI. He has chaired various committees on internal committees like Committee on Internal Audit, member in the industry of ICAI, chairman of Women Members Empowerment Committee. He was a vice chairman of Committee on Public Finance and Government Accounting, was the chairman of Professional Development Committee of ICAI, was the chairman of Committee for Cooperatives.
Great, Meheji. We can take ahead.
NPO secretary.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Over to you, sir.
So my very honorable council colleague, CA Chandrasekhar Vasant Chidleji, my very dear friend and co-chairman of this board, CA Gyanchand Mishra ji, the chairman of Pimpri Chinchwad branch of WARC, CA Vijay Kumar, Jagannath Bamne ji, the moderator, CA Mahesh Anil Khandelwal ji, and the three very prominent and revered speakers, CA Raut Jindal, who would speak on incorporating forensic audit techniques in internal audit. You all very well know that now there has been a great mix of internal and forensics. So when you undertake forensic audits, it becomes imperative that you have a forensic angle to it. I want to tell you that forensic in the country has grown over a large pace, and the entire scape of internal audit is changing. We used to speak of a UCA word, where Y stood for volatility, U stood for uncertainty, C stood for complexity, and A stood for ambiguity. But ladies and gentlemen, in the contemporary times, it has now changed to Bani, where B starts for brittle, A starts for anxious, N starts for non-linear, and I starts for incomprehensive. The entire base is changing. You can't predict things. Risk is something that would come in at any moment. Risk is something that you can't define. So you need to understand one thing very clearly, that you have to tackle and mitigate risk as and when it comes. And therefore, when you're able to gel both internal audit and forensic audit, it would be great. The second speaker of the day again is CA PG Subramaniam, who has got a great insight, would speak on internal audit perspective. Audit essentially is a perspective. It is a management function, and if you define it, it is a management's perception, because management perception, vision, and mission is translated through internal audit function into something that comes into reality. A great session which needs to be looked. And the third speaker, my very dear friend, a person who's a friend of the board, who is always available for his guidance, and a person who has got a wide experience. In fact, yesterday I was in Jaipur. We had the faculty development program for Forensic Standards Board, that is DAB, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. We had a full-fledged seminar on forensic standards, forensic accounting standards. The full name is FIAS, Forensic Investigation and Accounting Standards, with SAFA. The board hosted the program for entire SAFA countries, 9 countries across the board. I happen to be the chairman of IT committee of SAFA. And there, when I was there, I listened about Mr. Paul, both the past president, CA K. Raghu, and Mr. Jangir, the faculty there were his students. So Mr. Paul has been trying to drive excellence into all activities of Internal Standard Board. He would be speaking on mobile device security. Yes, mobile, after the pandemic which has come in, mobiles have been given very significant tasks. I would like to tell you that your institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, is an integral part of IFAC, which is the International Federation of Accountants. And way back on 20th March 2020, your institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, came out with a guidance on remote audit, which is the first in the world. Your institute, DAB, Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, came out with 23 forensic standards, which are unheard in the entire world. And let me tell you, that all SAFA countries are very eager to incorporate them. And not only SAFA, all African PAFA countries. And now we are making our trends into the Western countries so that we are able to effectively percolate what we have done. So, ladies and gentlemen, the basic purpose of such programs is to come to a parlance wherein we are able to effectively train our members, hone their technical skills so that they are able to effectively serve not only their clients or stakeholders, but the regulators and government also. I will not stand between you and the reverse speaker. I would come for a session sometime later in September or starting of October. But now I would give it back to the moderator of the session, Mr. Mahesh, to take the things forward. I want to thank you all for coming here. And I want to again tell you, again reiterate, that your board is at your beck and call. Whenever you need guidance on any subject, please do write to me, mail to me, phone to me, and we'll ensure that best of the speakers are there to guide you, to put into right parlance so that you are able to effectively dispel all the doubts that may have arisen on the subject. Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to the moderator, Mr. Mahesh.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for such a great guidance. Hereupon, I would like to call upon the speaker, first speaker of the day, CA Rahul Jindal, sir, who will be speaking upon incorporating forensic audit techniques in the internal audit. I take my privilege to give a brief introduction of the speaker. Rahul Jindal, sir, is a qualified fellow chartered accountant. He has also done his LLB, DISA, certified fraud examiner, certified forensic auditor, IBBI registered valuer, certified concurrent auditor, diploma in IFRS. He's a forensic audit expert and has handled more than whooping 35,000 crore of forensic audits for public sector banks, private sector banks, BSE, and other financial institutions. He has taken seminars for various institutions such as NIRC, ICAI, Bank of India, Economic Offense Wing, NIRC Study Circles, WRC Study Circles. Over to you, sir. Please guide us all on your given topic. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Nanda sir, Chitle sir, Gyan Mishra sir for giving me this opportunity. Secondly, I'd like to thank Vijay Kumar sir, who is the chairman of the branch. So thank you for again inviting and collaborating with the Internal Audit Standard Board. And welcome to the co-speakers and the moderator of these sessions. So I'll just share my screen with you all. Yeah. So first and foremost, we need to understand, like, today's session is for the internal audit. Then why are we discussing about forensic audit and how forensic audit can be incorporated in an internal audit scenario today? As you must be knowing that the role of an internal auditor has increased multifold now. If you will see the amendments that have been made in CARO as well, the statutory auditor will also have to compulsorily go through the internal audit reports as well. So your reports now hold a very, very important part of an audit of a statutory audit as well, and for the company as well. So for an example, you did an internal audit for a company, but you could not find any adverse observations because as a statutory auditor, I'm doing an audit on a sample basis. I can take a plea because it is considered that the statutory auditor is a watchdog, not a bloodhound. But according to me, this definition has also changed. But an internal auditor has to check each and every aspect. Reason being, internal audit is being done on quarterly, monthly, half yearly, whatever the timelines are being decided. So as an internal auditor, you are checking, you are verifying all the aspects of the company, whether it be treasury, whether it be raisings, whether it be disbursements, whether it be policy making, whether it be HR. So as an internal auditor, you have a very wide scope. So for if for an example, you could not find any adverse observations in your internal audit report, and if tomorrow, after referring your report, statutory auditor finds out any adverse comments during his audit, and he provides an adverse report, then it will impact your report. Reason being, suppose a fraud has undertaken place, and the statutory auditor under section 143(12) reports it to the central government that a particular fraud has undertaken place. But as an internal auditor, you have not reported that fraud anywhere. Then in that case, you might be professionally held liable that why were you not able to find out that fraud? Reason being, you are checking the documents to 90 to 95 to 100%. But a statutory auditor checks it, let's say for a sample, 30%, 40%. So unless and until you have the complete documentation, it will be very difficult for you to prove that why you were not able to find that fraud. So now, since your report will compulsorily go to the statutory auditor and it will be provided by the management itself, you have to point out what all observations you have, what all adverse comments you have in your statutory, in your internal audit report. Now comes this, how do we incorporate forensic audit into internal audit? I'll tell you, I've done a lot of forensic audits. So I'll try to, through the practical case studies that I've undertaken, I'll try to bring you the perspective that what type of frauds the management have undertaken. Management, what manipulation they have done in their books of accounts, what fake documents they have made, and how to check the company industry-wise. While you are doing an internal audit, generally you have a checklist of documents that you go and you verify. Like I have done a few of the internal audits. So we generally have a checklist. Yes, no, not applicable or not provided, whatever columns we have made, that we provide a preset checklist to the company to provide us these documents. And on the basis of those documents, we generally do our internal audit. But according to me, in today's scenario, your checklist should be made industry-wise. The audit for which industry you're auditing, that it should have a separate checklist. Like if you are doing for a manufacturing industry, it should have a separate checklist. If you are doing for a trading company, it should have a separate checklist. If you are doing for a hotel industry, it should have a separate checklist. If you are doing for an iron and steel company, separate checklist. So similar, if you're doing for a mining company, a telecom company, each and every industry, you should have a separate checklist. I'll say 50% can be common, but the 50% should be more focused towards the industry that you're auditing. The reason why I'm saying this is, if you'll go through the CARO 2020, as you all know, they have increased the responsibility of auditor to multifold extent in CARO. Now there are 21 subclauses in CARO. Earlier there were 16, but there has been introduction of many subclauses. So in totality, if you include the subclauses, there are around 50 clauses on which you have to report now under CARO, which were around 20-25 earlier. Now there are 50. It has almost doubled. And the risk and responsibility that is being sent on the statutory auditor is very, very huge. So as an internal auditor, you should go through the reportings that the statutory auditor has also to do. Now coming back to the forensic audit, I'll tell you. I'll just run through the I'll just run through the scope of the forensic audit. I'll tell you, because I'm not here to discuss what is forensic audit, but I will discuss, like I'll just give you a brief difference between of what is a forensic audit and what is a normal audit. Statutory audit or an internal audit is done prior to signing of financial statements. So if you're doing an internal audit, for a financial year, you will do it during the year, and after that your financial statements will be signed. But forensic audit is done after your financials have been signed. So I am doing a forensic audit for previous year for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. While you are doing an internal audit, you have an assumption that there is no fraud. You have an assumption because on the basis of that, you are preparing your reports. But while doing a forensic audit, you have a preemptive mind कि he must have done some fraud or not. इसने कोई ना कोई गड़बड़ तो जरूर करी होगी. Similarly, while doing internal audit, it is for the purpose of reader, to assist the reader. Who are the readers in internal audit? The management is the reader. Now the statutory auditor is also a reader of your financial statements. In case you have any adverse comments, then they form part of your director's report as well. Hence, your internal audit report is also very important for the public at large. For example, if it is a listed company. Whereas forensic audit is to reach a legal decision, whether the party has done any fraud or not. Internal audit decides whether the company is being run properly by the directors or the management or not. So if your internal audit is good, your internal audit report is fine, it means the company is being run properly by the management. Whereas in case of forensic audit, we are trying to identify that who is the person who has done the fraud. We already have a presumption that some fraud has happened. We try to find out the culprits in forensic audit. I hope I have made a clear difference between what is a forensic audit and what is an internal audit. Now comes the scope of forensic audit. We'll try to incorporate it in our internal audit. Your internal audit scope is very wide. I'll tell you, your internal audit considers each and every part of your balance sheet, your HR, your everything is considered. Whereas in forensic audit, if you are doing for any financial institution, it restricts itself to the financial part. So I'll give you an example. So I'll just give you practical cases that I've undertaken so that you are able to understand that what we have to check and where we have to hit. For an example, if you are doing an internal audit, so I will say internal audit, but the practical cases that I'm sharing with you is from the forensic audit scenario. If you understand these case studies, whenever you are doing an internal audit, you will come to know that which is the areas where you can find fraud. So if you are doing an internal audit, it is possible that 70-80% will be fine, but we need to find out that 20% core area where fraud has happened. And now the main thing comes that you as an auditor should know that which place to hit to identify where the adverse observations can come so that your responsibilities and liabilities reduce. So for an example, you are doing an internal audit for a manufacturing company. So if you are doing an internal audit for a manufacturing company, what you should check? See, if you are doing any audit for any company, you will go and check, you will check a lot of things. You will check the documents, you will check the working files, you will check all those documents, the transportation documents, bill T, waste slip and everything. But if you are doing an internal audit for a manufacturing company, then what will you do? If you're doing an internal audit for a manufacturing company, what will you do? You will check the gate pass register. Gate pass register is a very, very important document when you are doing an internal audit for a manufacturing company. Let me tell you the reason for that. Like when we do a forensic audit, what happens? The borrower or whatever the companies, they are able to produce us the documents, invoices, because invoices are generally generated in Tally or accounting software. They are able to produce the bill Ts, waste slips and everything. But when we ask them to produce a gate pass register, in 50% cases, we found the manufacturing companies were not able to produce a gate pass register. Now, what is the reason for that? The reason for that is the gate pass register is a very, very difficult document to make. The gate pass register is a very difficult document to make. Reason being, you have to fill in a lot of information in gate pass register. Like you have to fill in which driver has brought the goods, what time he has brought the good, what was the vehicle number, what is the quantity of goods that he brought, at what time the truck has left the factory, what is the quantum of goods, and what item he has taken out, who is the driver, what is his mobile number. So all those informations are filled in the gate pass register. So if you are doing an internal audit for a manufacturing company, you should first and foremost ask the gate pass register. If you are able to check the gate pass register, then there is a lease. If the gate pass register is properly maintained, then you can check the documents on sample basis. क्योंकि अगर उसने gate pass register maintain कर रखा है, if he has a gate pass register, there is a 80-90% chance that he will have the supporting documents for that, because that gate pass register will be made from that supporting documents only. In that case, you have to apply your mind. मैंने जैसे I did an audit for a company, he produced the gate pass register. We asked the gate pass register for 10 years. So when we verified the gate pass register, it was being maintained in a register. When we verified that register, we observed that the pages were new, the handwriting was same, the pen was same. So it was like he has bought the register 10 days ago and he had put a duty of an accountant to put those entries in that. So if you use your mind, like if you're doing a manufacturing company, you go and you find that the gate pass register for 2 years, 3 years is in the newest form. So the writing is same, the ink is same, the paper is like new paper. In that case, it should create a suspicion in your mind. There is a possibility that the gate pass register has been made recently after you had asked for it. In that case, there is a high probability that the company might not be manufacturing those goods. I am telling you the practical scenarios. You can do internal audit better than me because I'm not a specialist in internal audit, but I can guide you the scenarios in which you can find out. Let me give you a second example. If you are doing an internal audit for a trading concern, then what is to be done? As you know, in trading concern, there is generally the premises are on rental basis. So generally the goods remain in the vehicle and they are transported further for further selling. So in trading, there is a possibility that gate pass register might not be there, because जैसे सामान आते हैं वो वैसे ही बिक जाता है ट्रेडिंग में, या वो डायरेक्टली थर्ड पार्टी के पास चला जाता है. You are just a commission agent or you are booking a profit in between. In case of trading, what you should do? In case of trading, you can check the documents. You should check the documents on sample basis, but you should calculate the cost of goods sold in that case. Give how much gross profit I am making on the goods I am selling or I'm trading. If, for an example, I'm booking a turnover of 100 crores, but I'm booking a COGS, the gross profit. I'm not talking about the net profit. I'm talking about gross profit. If you are booking a gross profit of only rupees 10 lakhs in 100 crore sale, this means you are booking negligible profit in your financial statements. So if you are booking negligible profit, it should create a suspicion in your mind whether actually he's doing genuine business or not. So in case of trading concern, you should focus more on the profit that is earning, the gross profit that is earning. See, the net profit can vary. Reason being, he might have various fixed costs, like depreciation is there, interest if he has taken a loan from bank, employee cost can be there, or any other administrative expenses can be there. You should focus on the gross profit that is booking in case of trading concern. Let me give you another example. For an example, if you are doing an internal audit of hotel industry, अगर आप hotel industry को audit कर रहे हैं, उस केस में आपको क्या check करना है? You should know that in hotel industry, there are always two software maintained. What are the two software? One software is maintained at the reception and one software is maintained for accounting purposes, in which the books of accounts are written. So generally what happens, you go for internal audit, what you will do, you will check the accounting system which is being maintained at the back end. Jahan pe they will be booking sales, purchases, expenses, which will be telling you your balance sheet. But as an internal auditor or as a forensic auditor or as a statutory auditor, according to me, you should take a report from the software in the reception is there. The software that is on the reception, what all information are there? The software on reception, there are a number of information. What? Guest ka naam, guest name, date of check-in, Aadhaar number, or what is the government identification number, email ID, mobile number, and room allotted. So what happened? I did a forensic audit for a very big hotel group. So when I went to the hotel, I asked them to provide me a complete 1-year report of the software being maintained at the reception. So they provided me a complete Excel dump of that report in Excel, and they provided for 1 year. When I verified that report, there were around, I'll say 10,000 entries in that, for an example. When I verified that report, I observed that out of 10,000 entries, 2,000 entries were where the mobile number was same. 1,500 entries were there whereby the government identification number was not entered. See, once you have that report, it will create a suspicion in your mind कि इन्होंने 2,000 की they have booked faked invoices because the mobile number is same. So whenever a guest come to them, what is the KYC that they have to maintain? They have to note they have to take a photocopy of their government identification. They have to get it self-attested. They have to have their mobile number and email ID. These are the basic details that every hotel asks when you go for a check-in or you do a booking. So if in the software, the government identification number is missing, or the mobile number entered is same in 2,000 entries, or the email ID is same, it should create a suspicion in your mind that there is a high probability of chance that such sales are being overbooked by the management. And why will an hotel person do an overbooking of sales? Because so that he can deposit his cash in his bank account. Because generally, there are no debtors for the hotel industry. So either they receive their payments in cash or through the credit card or bank account. So if they want to increase the deposition of cash in their bank account, they will inflate their sales. So that 2,000 of which the mobile number was same or the government identification was not there, in that case, there is a high probability that that amount is not recoverable or that was a fake entries that they have passed. I'll give you another example in this case. Now, as you know, under Caro, they have amended Schedule 2, the balance sheet presentation. Now, in balance sheet presentation, you have to bifurcate your trade payable and trade receivables under two separate aging analysis is to be provided. Now, what is the aging analysis? This has increased your work multifold. Let me tell you how. As an internal auditor, now if you are doing work, if you are checking the trade receivables and trade payables, what will happen? You have to ensure that the classification of trade receivable, trade payable is correct. Reason being, in case the classification is incorrect and the debtors become non-recoverable later on, it will be a problem for the internal auditor that how he has verified the sales first and then how he has verified the debtors. So what I was talking about is the aging schedule. In Schedule 2, the aging schedule is for debtors I'm talking about 0 to 6 months, 6 months to 1 year, 1 year to 2 years, 2 years to 3 years, and more than 3 years. Similarly, in payable, up to 1 year, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and more than 3. So, for an example, you are doing an audit for any, I'll say iron and steel company. आप किसी एक iron and steel company का audit कर रहे हैं. In that case, if the company has debtors which are outstanding, so for an example, the company has a debtors of 100 crores. Out of 100 crores, 20 crores are those debtors which are up to 1 year, and 80 crores are those debtors which are more than 1 year. So 20 crores are up to 1 year and 80 crores are more than 1 year. In that case, it should create a suspicion in your mind, since a working cycle for any manufacturing or trading concern other than the agriculture one or the EPC contractor one, other than those, you will find out that the working cycle cannot exceed more than 6 months or 3 months to 6 months. Other than I'm talking about the agriculture and the EPC contractor, the working cycle cannot exceed more than 3 to 6 months. So if the debtors are more than 1 year, in this case, like 80% of debtors are more than 1 year, it should create a suspicion in your mind that the sales book might be fake. That the sales book might be only for round tripping and nothing else. In that case, you should then focus towards the sales being booked. So if you have verified the sales, you should go, then second step is verification of debtors and creditors. If you observe that the debtors and creditors above 1 year are more than 80, 70, 80, 50, 60, 70, 80%, that should create a very, very strong suspicion in your mind that you have not properly verified the sale and purchase, and you have to find out that lacuna. How he has booked the fake sale and how he has increased its turnover in the financial statement. So as an internal auditor, first and foremost, you have to read through the balance sheet. Complete balance sheet is to be studied properly. Like when we do forensic audit, what we do, we prepare a comparative of balance sheet of 3 to 5 years. We prepare a comparative of notes to accounts. We prepare a comparative of profit and loss. We prepare a comparative of balance sheet. So once you have prepared that comparative of financial figures, you can easily find out the movement in that financial statements. How the sales purchase now. Under Caro, under Schedule 2, you have to mention 11 ratios. It is compulsory that all the companies have to mention 11 ratios in their financial statements. If you will find out, if you compare that financial ratios, you can find out the movement. Like one ratio is stock turnover ratio. That how often you are able to recover you are able to sell your stock. And then there is a debtor turnover ratio, that how often you are able to recover funds from your debtors. So as an internal auditor, you have to not only create a checklist and do yes or no, or to identify what are there. You have to study the balance sheet thoroughly. जब तक आप balance sheet नहीं पढ़ेंगे, like around 15 days back, I had a seminar in GST intelligence. Nanda sir and I had gone there to take a seminar on forensic audit. We did it for the GST intelligence department. You will be amazed that the GST intelligence department, who raises crores of demands on the borrowers for GST, they needed a training to how to read a balance sheet. Balance sheet mein how to read the financial figures, how to study the balance sheet. Even though they have those softwares, they have all the softwares in the world, they have tie-up with the top IT firms in the world, like Infosys, Wipro, what TCS, whatever that may be. They have the softwares with them, they have the IT people with them. But according to me, the biggest software is your human brain. Once you are able to identify, like if you will ask me to do an audit, I have done more than 150 forensic audits. If you will ask me to study a balance sheet of 3 to 5 years and tell me, I have that much confidence that 60 to 70% I can tell you कि इस balance sheet में ये गड़बड़ हो सकती है. There is a possibility that there might be issues under these heads. That can only come once you have a knowledge of that balance sheet and financial statements. So internal audit is not only now preparing a checklist and doing that, following that checklist. You have to go beyond that now. For going beyond that, you have to use your analytical mind. You have to study the balance sheet. You have to go through the clauses of Caro. You have to read the forensic audit standards, because according to me, now there is no term as statutory or internal audit. Everything has been converted into an investigation audit. The reason I am saying is because whenever I visit CBI, because my forensic audit reports go to CBI, if I have written that this is a fraud account and the debtors are overstated, the two people that the CBI official calls is the statutory auditor, and if there is an internal audit, then the internal auditor, and third is the stock auditor. So if in my report I have written that the debtors were fake or the stock was non-existent, they will call you and ask you for the documents on which basis you have verified the debtors, on which basis you have verified the stock, and on which basis you have verified the sales and purchases. I'll give you a very, very good example that I am undertaking, that I had visited the CBI latestly. What was that? The latest example was that I had visited the CBI and they had asked for the debtors confirmation. The company was dealing in rice and agriculture products. Since the company was dealing in rice and agriculture products, there was a chance, since GST, VAT or excise or service tax, nothing was applicable on agriculture products. The company had all the documents available with them. They had everything, each and every document was available with them. So when we verified the sale purchases, we were not able to find any fault in that. I'll tell you how it is not that at the first thing I will find out everything. No. We first verified all the sales purchase document. We could not find anything. We followed the second step. When we verified the debtors, we observed that many of those debtors were proprietorship firms or individuals. And out of 250 crores the debtors, 220 crores debtors were one, which were to be recovered from the individuals and proprietor firms. And all these individuals were around 20 individuals. They were based in an area of, like in Delhi, there's an area of Chandni Chowk and Chavdi Bazaar. There is an area in Delhi in which these individuals were based. So when we went to physically verify them, we were not able to find anyone. Then we sat, we discussed it. We found out that there must be some lacuna in sale and purchase bill, because we were able to prove that debtors were fake and they are not recoverable. So 250 crores of debtors were not recoverable at all. So we observed that there was some lacuna which we are not able to find in the sales and purchase bill. Our team sat and we again went back to the sales and purchase bills. Now I will tell you what fault we found out. When we looked at the bill closely, we observed that the handwriting of sender and receiver of goods were same. मतलब जिस बंदे ने गुड्स रिसीव करे थे उसकी हैंडराइटिंग सेम थी, जिस बंदे ने गुड भेजे थे उसकी हैंडराइटिंग सेम थी. So what we wrote in our report, since let me tell you, we are a financial expert, not a handwriting expert. First, we mentioned that debtors were not recoverable. Secondly, we mentioned that it seems the handwriting of senders and receiver of goods is same. So there is a high probability of chance that these sales might not have been taken place. So as an internal auditor, you have to look into the documents. Sir, internal audit में आपको पूरा process देखना पड़ेगा. आपको complete transaction route करनी पड़ेगी. What is the complete transaction? First, sale purchase. Second transaction, debtors. Third transaction, recoverability of debtors. Fourth transaction, in case debtors are not recoverable, then what action has been taken? Now I'll come to this point. We did an audit for a company which was dealing in dairy products. It was into milk and other dairy products. They had book sales, so all the documents were fine. We could not find any fault in those documents. We went to the second stage of debtors. When we verified the debtors, we observed that around 1500 crores of debtors were recoverable. 1500 crores of debtors were recoverable. We requested the management to provide what steps they have taken to recover those trade receivables. Whether they have sent any legal notice to the debtors, whether any mails have been sent, whether any communication has been done with them, nothing was done. When we asked the management, they informed us, sir, since the amount is not, since we are following up with them, we'll try to recover that money, but we have not taken any steps to recover that money. And those debtors were outstanding for more than 1 year. If a person would have been in normal course of business, अगर किसी बंदे ने normal course of business में business करा होता, in that case, he would have taken legal steps. He would have sent a legal notice to recover that money of 1500 crores. This shows that the intention of the management was malified. Reason being, they had not taken even a single legal step against those 1500 crores. Had they taken legal step, had they sent a legal notice, had they filed a legal case in court, we would have assumed that they're trying to recover that money. But since no legal step has been taken, there is a high probability that this is just a turnover routing and nothing else. So if you are doing an internal audit, your debtors are more than 1 year and more than 80% are more than 1 year. In that case, you should not only restrict to sale and purchase. You should ask the management to provide you legal action, legal steps taken by the management to recover such money. If your management has not taken any legal steps, there is a high probability that this is not a sale and this is just a book entry, let me tell you. And I'm telling you from my experience, later on, if you give a clean report that you have verified on the basis of sale purchase, all the documents are there, it is not going to save you before the government agencies, let me tell you. In one of the cases, the auditor had all the sale purchase document along with supporting documents. But what happened? I'll tell you what happened. The exact case I'll tell you. So there was a company which was dealing into steel, iron and steel products. The statutory auditor had all the documents, the internal auditor had all the documents pertaining to sales purchase and the supporting documents. They showed it to CBI, sir, see, we have all the documents, hence we have verified the sales and purchase and it is fine. Now I'll tell you what happened. For an example, there were 20 parties to whom sales were being made. The CBI guy called because they were debtors and they were outstanding and they were not, the debtors were around, I'll say 600 crores were the debtors in 20 parties, but they were not recoverable. The CBI official got a witness, they got a statement from these 10 parties, the debtors, that we have not made actual sale and this is just a book entry. They have given in writing a witness statement on affidavit to the CBI that we have not made any sales and this is just a book entry. Now tell me what safeguard does an internal or a statutory auditor have? Even if you have all the documents, you will not have any safeguard. Reason being, you should have verified the recoverability of debtors. Even if you have all the sale purchase bills and the transportation documents. If the funds are not being received from debtors, no legal action has been initiated, this becomes a suspicious transaction. So as an internal auditor, you have to be very, very sure that how you are verifying. I'll give you another example relating to sales and purchase transaction. Sir, how much time do we have? We have 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, sir, you have time till 7 o'clock, so it's 6:53.
Okay. Now with respect to debtors and creditors, I'll tell you. Many of the cases we observe that the balances of debtors and creditors are adjusted by the parties. It is called an inter-party adjustment account. Now, as an auditor, what you should do? Is that a fraud or is it allowed or not? Let me ask you. I don't know if the participants can reply. Let me ask you whether the balances of debtors and creditors can be adjusted or not. Okay, I'll tell you. The balances of debtors and creditors can be adjusted. Reason being, in contract act, it is written that the consideration can be in cash or kind. So if you are adjusting the balances of debtors and creditors, it is fine. But now as an internal auditor, what you should do? You should have with you a tripartite agreement between the main company, the debtor and the creditor, whereby the debtor is giving permission that I will be making that you can make payment on my behalf to the creditor. And the creditor should confirm that I have received the payment from the debtor on your behalf. And there should be movement of funds between the debtor and the creditor. In case you do not have those documents, you are liable, because tomorrow onwards, there is a 60-70% chance that this transaction will be proved fake, whereby balances of debtors and creditors have been adjusted. So what you have to do as an internal auditor, you have to get a tripartite agreement between debtor, creditor, and the company. You have to check the bank statement, ensure that there is a movement of fund from debtor to the creditor, from the creditor to the debtor. You have to ensure the movement कि आपके debtor ने आपके creditor को पैसा दे दिया है. Secondly, now since I have very less time, I had a lot of examples, but time shortage hai. I've talked about debtors and creditors. I've talked about the transaction. I'll talk about a very, very important topic now. I'll talk because मेरे पास points बहुत सारे हैं, but time कम है, इसलिए मैं अब आपके पास सिर्फ एक topic और share करूंगा मैं. This is regarding related party transaction. I have only 5 minutes. उसी के अंदर मैं time लगा दूंगा. Sir, related party transactions क्या होता है? As an internal auditor, you have to check related party transactions. Generally, what you do, you check it as per accounting standard 18. आप AS 18 के हिसाब से आप अपनी related party transactions देखते हैं सर. But according to me, you should go beyond that. You should lift the corporate wheel of the company. I'll tell you why. We did a forensic audit for a company. Us company mein, that company was into EPC contract. That company transferred around 2,000 crore rupees to 786 companies. 786 कंपनियों में उसने 2,000 रुपए 786 कंपनी they had transferred 2,000 crore rupees. When we did an MCA verification of those 786 companies, we observed out of 786, 350 companies had same address, even though the directors were different, but they had the same address, one address of Calcutta. So when my team visited that address, it was observed it was a 10 by 10 shop and it was a closed shop. 10 by 10 small, छोटी सी दुकान थी, उस पे शटर लगा हुआ था. That was a closed shop. See, these companies, these 350 companies that I'm talking about, these are not related as per accounting standard 18. But as an internal auditor, if you are doing an internal audit of a company and 2,000 crore rupees has been transferred to 786 companies, out of which 350 has same address, it should create a suspicion in your mind and you should verify those transactions. You should mention in your report that these companies might be indirectly related because they have common address, even though they are not related as per accounting standard 18. Let me tell you, if you write these comments, these will save you from any government agencies in future. I'm telling you from my practical experience. You have to, as an internal auditor, according to me in today's scenario, you have to go beyond definition of accounting standard 18. एक साइट है zobacorp.com, अभी टाइम नहीं है वरना मैं आपको दिखा देता हूँ साइट पे. There is a site called zobacorp.com जिसके अंदर if you put the address, you will get the number of companies that are registered on that address. Once you get those companies that are registered on your address, you should verify those companies thoroughly. There can be a scenario that the directors were common 5 years back, but they are not common today. That can be a case whereby any servant or peon or any office employee has been made a director so that they do not fall under the definition of accounting standard 18. In that case, sir, you should verify the past directors of the company. So for example, you're doing an internal audit for, let me say, sales, purchase, expenses, income, whatever the case may be. You identify the top 20, 25 parties. For that, you should verify that MCA database, whereby you have to check whether they have any common directors in past, whether any address has been common. As a forensic auditor, even if the email ID is common, I go to that level as well. If the company has a common email ID, then I will write in a report that these companies have common email ID with the main company. And these company might be indirectly related to these companies, even though they are not related as per accounting standard 18. So my time is over now. So I'll just brief it up. I'll just summarize it. Sir, as an internal auditor, first and foremost, you have to maintain your proper working documents. You just don't have to restrict yourself to the accounting standards. You have to go beyond that. Because your reports are now very important. Internal audit reports are very important. Reason being, they will be going to the statutory auditor and other parties as well. Earlier, it were used to be only for the company and the management, but now it is not the scenario. In case any other, let me say, stock auditor, concurrent auditor, statutory auditor, forensic auditor, whatever the case may be, if they find any adverse observation which you have not identified, or you have not provided a disclaimer or a hint of that observation, you can be held liable by the government agencies in today's scenario, and you do not have any safeguard for that. So I thank you everyone. I thank the moderator, the speaker, Nanda Sahab, Chitle sir, and the chairman sir. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope I could give a broad prospect of what is to be checked as an internal auditor, giving it some flavor of forensic audit. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Sir has said very great, in a very good way, the skepticism what an internal auditor should always keep. Okay. Yes. I would like to call upon for our next speaker for session 2. The session will be on internal audit, a perspective. CA PG Subramaniam sir. He's a fellow member of ICAI with 45 years of experience at senior level across industry verticals covering manufacturing, service sector, but mainly in hospitality industry. Sir is a graduate from University of Bombay. He's a fellow chartered accountant. He's a member of expert committee on indirect taxes and banking, finance and corporate affairs. He's a member of ESCON subgroup of MSME and taxation CII at India level. His academic experience, he is involved in revision of syllabus for CPT, IPCC, IPCC2, accounting, advanced accounting for ICAI. He has commissioned to prepare case studies related to strategic cost and financial management and risk management for final ICAI. He has authored a book on strategic cost management and risk analysis, which has been published by ICAI Southern Region, Southern India Regional Council. His industrial experience, as I said, it's of 45 years, but 30 years in manufacturing sector. He was heading finance function. And for other 15 years, he's looking into operational matters of five-star property, including launching of several initiatives aimed at cost reduction, etc. Was still recently president and CEO of a five-star deluxe property, which is a hotel cum resort. Over to you, sir. Please guide us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and a nice introduction. I hope I live up to the expectation because Mr. Jindal has told so many things without being said. So it's an honorous task that is rested upon me. I will try to do full justice to the job. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'll
you.
also start sharing the screen, sir. ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಹಿಂಗ್ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ,
ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಪ್ಪ, ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಶೇರ್. ಇವಾಗ
ಬಂತಲ್ಲ?
Yeah, it started.
It started, okay.
Yeah.
Good evening to everyone. To start the session, I would like to play a small video on internal audit. Just listen to that, then we proceed from there.
ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಅದೆಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದು?
ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಶೋ.
ಹಾ?
This slide show from the beginning. Current slide. Just tell them that.
ನೀವು ಹೋಯ್ತಮ್ಮ ನೋಡಿ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Just click on that. Click ಮಾಡಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇರ್ಲಿ click. ಬರುತ್ತೆ.
Audit. Organization first should follow systematic management.
With this, we started. I hope it sets the tone for what the internal auditor's role is. I am going to complement what Mr. Jindal has talked so far about internal audit. It has become more honest responsibility in the internal audit today due to the change in perception and the management's expectation. And with globalization in business that is happening today, the risks the business face has increased manifold. And the duty as internal auditor is to perceive the risk on a day-to-day basis, not only perceive it, evaluate the risks and try to prevent and present a management the how to mitigate the risks that is present in conducting internal audits as well as the organization that faces. So as we said, definition is internal audits evaluate a company's internal controls, including corporate governance and accounting processes. These audits ensure compliance with laws and regulations and help to maintain accurate, timely financial reporting and data collection. It is speaking in a very nutshell what internal auditors' roles are. It is not restricted to conduct only of financial transactions alone, unless we get into the bottom of the transaction that is being conducted and look out for possible violations or transgressions in internal controls. You cannot do justice to the audit that we conduct. And it has value only when we do internal audit in such a way that we report it on a timely basis to the management by doing an independent objective assurance and consultative activity designed to add value. This is very important. It is not enough if you just do a financial transactions audit and report to the management everything okay. No, that is not what the management is expecting from me today. They expect what is the value addition you're doing to the organization. I'll give you a simple example here. As I was heading the hotel of a large hotel as a CEO, all hotels, as you know, have a loyalty program that runs on a year-on-year basis, whereby members are invited to join the hotel, and for fee that they pay, they are given certain facilities during the entire year. This particular hotel had commissioned an external agency to manage this value addition, this loyalty program. When we got into the depth that we found that the program has been running for a couple of years, agreement has been entered into with them. It is found that they had almost added around 2,000 members to the program, and only about the payment was 500 programs have been remitted to the hotel. Then when we found out, it was known that close to around 1,000 members are all fake members added. As Mr. Jindal was mentioning, these fake things happen very, very fast unless you get into the depth of that. And we found that most of them have the same mobile number, the same addresses, no proper KYCs, etc. Whereas it was shown as if 2,000 members exist. That is where we uncovered the whole thing process, and then we had to launch a criminal proceeding against the person concerned to recover money, but still the legal battle is going on. That shows the proper due diligence exercise was not conducted while entering the contract with the concerned person for managing the loyalty program. This is one of the things which we need to look at. And we also look at how bringing a system discipline approach to evaluate effectiveness of the management. Then, types of internal audit. Transactions, which is traditional, that is, we do the audit of financial transactions like vouching, payment, etc., which is very minimal. Anyway, today it has gone beyond that. Compliance audit. That is, the organization is in full compliance of all the legal thing that is required to be followed by the company concerned, including remittance of TDS, whatever it may be to be done. This is best achieved by the internal auditor following what is called a compliance chart mechanism, so that he puts down the list of compliances that the organization has to follow, not essentially restricted to statutory compliances alone, but also corporate governance things, board meetings, the filing of returns, then shareholders' perspective. Everything has to come with the compliance chart in one full row, including agreements entered into, service contracts entered into, what are the terms and conditions that is entered, whether it has been renewed correctly, it has been followed. These are all to be done so that the compliance audit is full. Then operational audit covers audit of operational areas, including production, processes, marketing, admin and HR, procurement functions, to name a few. It is A-level management audit. That is, you get into the depth of the, for instance, if you take the area of production, you not only get into the production status that is given, but you also get into the operational portion of it. See what process the printing product, what is the raw material input, what is the wastage percentage thing, whether the rate is in the parameters. All those things you need to look into so that the audit is meaningful, and also point out if there are deviations the process is followed, including procurement of the desired materials, composition that goes into the production, or if we take the audit of the hotel, what material has been procured to meet the quality standards that is laid down, starting from not only food, beverages, linen, everything that is concerned running an operation of the hotel needs to be studied so there are no deviations. Then risk-based internal audit. This is the latest development in the field of internal audit. And as time goes by, we are going to be called upon to conduct more and more of risk-based internal audits to ensure that we are at the forefront of identifying the risks that the business faces. Take a simple example. I'll again come back to the hotel industry because that is the latest thing I'm handling. The hotels are very cyclical in nature as far as the functions are concerned, and the season highly seasonal. Added to that, apart from the competition that is there, the undercutting in the market is very, very high. On top of that, of late, you will find that most of the hotels are relying more and more on digital platforms to book their rooms. Here, there is a possibility, given the fact that these sites are all operating on a highly leveraged competitive environment, they will purposely try to leverage the advantage that they have by underquoting the rates. But there is a catch in that. There is a possibility that there is a connivance with the reservation people in the hotel to deliberately reduce the rates in order to see the hotel revenue drops down, whereas the hotel might have been sold for a higher rate and the differential amount might have been pocketed both by the staff in the front as well as the service provider. This can be only assessed as a risk, and you will know only if you study what are the latest trends in the market, what are the room revenue going up. You need to have a proper understanding of the marketing dynamism that is available and the rate evolution. That's one of the risks the company faces. Then another risk is the hotel faces is the procurement processes. Unless you are aware of the latest trends in procurement, normally what happens is hotel industry enters into annual contracts for procurement of materials because that saves a lot of botheration of the hotel to enter into negotiations with the vendors on a regular basis. But there is a catch in this. The market is so dynamic, the price of commodities keeps changing on regular basis. How will you know that the hotel is insulated from the risk of that they don't pay any extra money for the item they procure? How will you ensure that? That the internal auditor will have to do a separate study, what we used to call it as market study. We go in the guise of a procurement manager to typical markets, and we know the items that the hotel buys and try to buy those items in the market on a regular basis, come back and compare the rate which the vendor is charging you and point out to the management that, look here, this is the risk you face. You are not assessed your procurement risk properly. Instead of buying for about, say, let us 10 rupees, you have been paying 5 rupees for the kg for this, and this is the risk you have faced, whereby you are paid more. So these kind of risks need to be assessed properly. Then there is also the risk of the market threats, etc., which need to be studied carefully and developed, report upon. Then we also need to, as Mr. Jindal is mentioning, every hotel has got two softwares running. One is the front office system, the other is the back office system. Back office largely only records the financial transactions, and then also the HR functions, etc. Those kinds are captured. MAS, everything is prepared. Whereas the front office is a hub which operates the property entirely, where reservation processes, the money that comes into the hotel, everything is recorded in the press, and end of the day, that needs to be reconciled with the front and the back office. To that extent, your IT system should be properly enabled so that it captures everything properly. And one more is which I also tell you is the inability of the what we have, what is called a cost controller in the hotel department, whose duty it is to evaluate every function that is held to find out whether it is ending up in a loss or it is bringing its money to the hotel. Those risks have to be very carefully pursued before you even enter into a quoting. What you have done is you have done a case study on a typical case where we found out that in a large event that is organized on exhibition basis, the hotel had quoted a certain amount of money to be collected. Later on, it was revealed that proper review of the costing was not done, and the hotel ran the risk of losing close to 1 crore or 2 crore of rupees on account of undercoating. Their idea was only to grab the business without even trying to think that what it is going to cost the hotel in this thing. But I'll tell you, the hotel industry is very highly leveraged and the cost factor is very high. You need to concentrate on what is called the gross operating profit margin. From there only the other things flow. You don't make any money on the rooms. It is money that is made in food and beverage that costs you. That is why it is very important, because exhibitions mean you only supply food and beverages and provide other amenities. So there the risk perception has to be studied very, very carefully and reported upon on a timely basis, bring it out so that you don't commit those mistakes again and again. Then comes the corporate governance. This is what is going to be the future of internal audit. The corporate governance system put in place, flag the risks that are there, whether the company is following all the laid down principles, etc., whether they have got a corporate governance committee, how many times it has met, what standards have been put, whether they have got any measures to do that. All these things have to be gone into. Corporate governance also includes best practices in management that is followed by the company, which need to be evaluated and reported on a regular basis. Now, evolution of internal audit will go through a little bit. Shareholder expectations have changed now. They don't want you to report only on the financial, saying that everything is okay, that is all right, this is all right. No, they are asking you newer perspective on risk management from the board. What have we done to assess the risks and prevent it so that over a period of time, it does not come back to haunt you and affect the management. That risk also involves assessment of the risk and employing the senior management professional. I'll tell you, if the senior management is not carefully evaluated and appointed, there is a risk that his performance will go down, which in turn will affect the operations of the company concerned and regulatory authorities. Apart from that, we also need to enhance operational efficiency and compliance with internal controls, but also enable value preservation and creation. Stakeholders now want continuous feedback. Gone are the days when we can just put a report. I know the reporting standards have become very, very strict and we are being watched from all angles. So we need to be very, very agile and continuously evaluate the process and accordingly come out with a report. This is what is very, very important before we even start the internal audit. Please understand the requirements and expectations of the auditee from the internal audit. What we do normally is we have several rounds of discussions with them even before we commence the audit to understand what exactly they are looking for. What we have found in the last couple of years is the function of internal audit has moved away from the traditional system of financial controls and audits, etc. They want us to focus more on the controls, the SOPs, and the operational areas, and what then, in fact, so and so to the extent it has gone that you're expected to evaluate the contracts and agreements which the auditee has given to see whether the contracts are okay, etc. And then also find out whether all the contracts are being performed in a proper way. It has gone to that level now. Also tell them that by giving a contract to particular thing, you are exposed to so and so risks. Please assess this before even enter into a contract with this person. That is the level it has gone into. So what we do is we discuss this clearly, put out a compliance chart, checklist, etc., discuss it with them, and then proceed to do the audit. That's what we do nowadays, including getting an engagement letter from the concerned auditee. Then little audit program process. Then what we do is, before we come and enter this thing, please study the processes of each activity the client is business, because this will throw a lot of insight into what processes the particular client follows, whether it is wrong, right, and map it. As Mr. Jindal mentioned, for each audit type, you need to have a separate audit program because the dynamics and the situations change. Manufacturing community requires one set of procedures. Service industry requires different, hospital it requires different, hospital requires different. So you need to tailor a program accordingly. And in order to be very effective, it is necessary that we do a process study of each activity that goes into this thing so that you understand and then sit on that chair. You become a part of the client so that you do justice to the work which you conduct. That is what is very important. Then decide on the approach to be followed for each area, including sample size to be audited. I will beg to differ with Mr. Jindal to some extent here, because despite the fact that you are there on 365 days basis the audit, it may be a little difficult for us to do thorough audit of each and every area. So what we generally do it, we divide the audit into 4 quarters. And each quarter one particular area is picked up and a thorough this thing is done of that. For instance, if I take the audit of purchases, I don't stop at looking at the contracts that have been entered into, the purchase price chart, the goods that have come in, whether booking has been done, stock exactly has been done. What we also do is whether vendor rating is properly happening. If so, the flagging has been done. What has been the performance of the vendor? Whether there is a need to change him, whether he has been overcharging you, whether he has been undercharging you, whether any fresh negotiation has to be done. That applies to both the service provider as the material supplier. That needs to be done so that you cover the entire gambit of audit to ensure the purchase process are all in place and they are followed to the T. The Navy's analysis better method. Then also have to be seen whether the company or the entity that is being audited have a set procedure and standard operating procedures in place, and how often those procedures are being reviewed and revised to suit the current circumstances. Then one more thing is, this is very, very elementary. Systems of check and balances are in place such that the same person does not carry out conflicting activity. That is, the person who does the procurement activity should not be given the responsibility of also accounting it and paying it. You can understand how dangerous that practice is. And then every company needs to have what is called a management information system. Please understand that management information system does not mean a system of reporting on a monthly basis about the profit and loss account, etc., but also extends system to each and every department, its activity. I'll tell you a simple example. In a hotel industry, we have what is called profit centers for each and every department. The budget is broken down department-wise. They are given targets, and at the end of the month, those targets which have been given to them, they have been achieved or not, are compared to the budget. And on a regular basis, MA system also throws out what has been done, how many reservations he took, what is the reason, what is the average revenue, what is the per pax fixing. All these things are analyzed and then compared. And inadequacies, if there are any, are brought to light. It is not restricted to only the monthly operating things, but also the performance of each department is reviewed on a regular basis so that we throw up the inadequacies. And internal auditor is involved in this very deeply. He needs to carry out the efficacy of the MA system on a regular basis, then prepare reports and bring it to the notice of management. This is where you are lacked. This is what has happened. That is how you have lost the money here. Please be very, very careful. Transactional audit. Then, if there are facilities available by the company from bank, sanction letter, charges filed, etc., process for collecting payments, including authority levels. Today, most of the payments are automated. It is very, very few things that are going through only cash. Cash transactions are avoided as much as possible. So this trail need to be followed very, very clearly with who the authority lies. For instance, when you try to make internet payment, there is an initiator, there is an approver, and there is an authority which ultimately pays the money. Whether those trails have been put or not has to be seen. That is very, very important. Then treasury operations, working capital management. This is very, very important. This is where internal auditor plays a very huge role. He assesses the working capital which the company runs with because they made a borrowed money from the bank, and every borrowing has a cost to it. How effectively the company has managed it to see that the outflow on account of interest is minimal is very important. By this, it means how effective the company is in collecting its debtors on a regular basis, and also to find out whether how the particular party to whom goods have been sold. See, I beg to differ with Mr. Jinal because he was trying to tell the audience that on a large basis, the hotel industry operates on a cash basis. No, it is not that. The hotel industry cannot survive only on cash accruals alone. There are contracts entered into with corporate houses who regularly take services from the industry on credit basis. Depending on the capability and the performance of the party concerned, credits are extended between 10 to 20 days, 15 days, 30 days, etc. But this needs to be followed up. And if it is found that this particular party is a continuous defaulter, flags have to be raised, because in turn, it affects the working capital very badly. One more thing which comes readily to mind is the efficacy of procurement determines the cycle of working capital management clearly. That is, in case you default on a payment to the vendor, maybe 1 month, 2 months, etc., he will take it. But as time goes by, he is bound to recover the cost which he bears by not receiving his money on time from you, which means indirectly he is going to increase the cost at which he supplies the material to you. So it's very, very essential to keep a tab on that, to see that the vendors are paid and kept under strict control and money is paid very clearly on time, so that the working capital cycle follows very closely. And also see that the company does not have any idle cash with it. See how it is deployed, what are they doing, whether it is short-term investments are being done, what is the policy regarding investment, where it is invested, what is the return on that investment, why it was required to be invested. All those things need to be seen very clearly and the report has to be given. Then comes revenue audit. What are the sources of revenue? Coming back to the hotel industry again, the main source of revenue. I'm sorry for emphasizing this on hotel, because that is things which comes to my mind really, because manufacturing companies are very simple. It's a sale of product, nothing else. Or at the most, some revenue will come from sources of service extended by the company if the product warrants service, which is a revenue for the teaching on an annual maintenance contract basis. Here, the source of revenue are room, food and beverages, banquets, back office operations, MAD, everything is a source of revenue. That needs to be mapped very clearly and tracked accordingly. Department of Revenue has to be tracked and evaluated. Then criteria applied in selecting customers, including mapping of risk profile. Even before, I'll tell you this simple example. One of the hotel companies had selected a customer based on the fact that he was close to the director concerned, and he instructed the hotel to take bookings from him. So not wanting to displease the director, the general manager said, yes, let me take it. I will extend credit to him because he has recommended him. He must be a good party. Almost close to about 1 million rupees something was the business that was given by this company. Always jumping, oh, such a high profile thing has come to us. Let us not refuse this business. The person conducted his listing, and later on, please remember, he paid 50% as advance. Balance 50% he did not pay, citing various deficiencies in service. Later on, it was found that were all an alibi to not to pay the money. And then it became a very big task to collect the money from him. Till today, close to around 30% of the money has not been received with the company. This is all because the risk profile of the customer was not mapped properly. And internal audit also did not flag the fact that outstanding is there for the last 2 years. It did not bring it out at all. That was a deficiency on the part of the internal audit. Then collection management, including periodic review, this needs to be this mechanism put in place by the company to evaluate the management of collection needs to be studied very carefully, and if necessary, we need to give suggestions to see how it can be improved further upon. Because experience teaches you which customer is good, what is not good, where review has to be done, how the money has to be collected, and whether any penalty clause have been put in place to see that the customer is made to pay. These are very important. Then deposit collected, if any, with related agreement, policy towards write-offs, provisions to be created. Every company has got a set provision policy, documented clearly what can be written off, what are the authority levels enabling you to write off amounts, including some write-offs which need the board approval. These things need to be seen very clearly. Then provision, that is for stocks which are not moving, old items, all these things need to be very clearly defined. Warranty extended. That this comes mainly in the case of manufacturing companies where they extend warranties, and during the warranty period, what are the clauses that is given, whether the parts are replaceable, that to be paid, or manufacturing defect only is covered. All these things need to be seen very, very clearly, and what is the policy the company follows. I had worked in a manufacturing company multinational company which had a warranty policy. Every equipment that was given to the, because most of the items were given only to government agencies and all capital good items. So we were required to give warranty to the particular, a utility which buys the product, and the warranty was normally for a period of 1 year, ensuring that it is insulated from all manufacturing defects. So we had a policy of estimating that what will be the warranty cost of the company and make provision in the books of accounts so that you're insulated tomorrow. If a huge claim comes, you're not left with to run helter-skelter for finding the resources to fund the warranty. So whether such policy exists need to be very carefully verified. Service agreement, they generally comes with people who render service to like outsourced service housekeeping or security services, lift maintenance, generator maintenance, etc. These are all need to be very carefully evaluated. What are all, whether it is a service agreement alone or whether it includes a spare parts also, etc., need to be seen. And what is the terms on which the agreement has been entered into, whether any increase in cost is required to be done. Normally what happens is, in order to save the botheration of entering into agreement on a yearly basis, we do enter into agreements for a consolidated period of 3 years. And in the bargain, ensure that we get the best rate for doing the services. No doubt there will be a little bit of leeway given for inflationary factors that need to be put in, but that need to be very clearly seen. It should not exceed about more than 5% or so. That needs to be built in. Normally what happens is, if you go on an annual contract basis, we have seen from a practical experience that they come back and ask for around 10% increase in the annual contract rate. But by freezing the service agreement for a period of 3 years, you save that 15% for 3 years. It's a big saving for a hotel. The internal audit needs to focus on this and also advise the management, if they have not done it, that this is a better way of saving money for the company. And liquidated damages and penalty for delayed supply. This applies mainly to manufacturing company. Liquidated damages can sometimes cause havoc to the company and really ruin us. So this needs to be very carefully built in, and delayed supply needs to be avoided. Quality control needs to be exercised, that the liquidated damages are kept to the minimum. Bank guarantee. Many entities, the company, manufacturing company which I was working, used to supply electrical equipment, and the electricity boards used to insist on bank guarantee equal to 5 to 10% of the value of the goods that is being supplied, which will be returned back to you only after the warranty period and service this thing is over. So there is a cost attached to this. Every time when you need to supply, you need to give a bank guarantee. Otherwise, you cannot participate in the tender at all. So it depends on the efficacy of the finance department to negotiate with the bank concerned. Look here, this amount of bank guarantee we're taking from you. What is the best rate we will give you? I'll tell you, in one of the places we work, we negotiated the bank in such a way that instead of paying a bank guarantee commission of around 5%, we brought it down to around 3% or so. That depended only on the negotiation. So this aspect needs to be seen by the internal auditor and advise the management accordingly. Look here, there is a scope. Since you are extending huge this thing, bank is earning a lot of commission, let them come back and give you. But at the same time, it needs to be mentioned, no bank guarantee must devolve. If it devolves, your credit rating goes down. This applies only if there is no devolvement of the bank guarantee. That aspect needs to be kept in mind. Retention money. Many contracts when it is executed, the person on whose behalf the contract is executed keeps about 10 to 15% retention money. We have found that this is one neglected aspect by many companies. They don't follow up with the person's concern that retention money needs to be got back from them, affecting the cash flow. It needs to be flagged and brought to the notice of the management. Tender processing. What are the tender process conditions needs to be seen very, very clearly. So do you have time? Hello? The
10
next
minutes
one.
more, sir.
Pardon, sir?
Yeah, you have 10 minutes more.
Oh my God. Okay. I think we should cover quickly. The next one, audit, procurement of input, procurement policy, selection of vendors, periodic assessment, authority levels of procurement, whether any normal annual contract is ended. This all I said, negotiation, raising purchase orders, etc. And alternate sources of supply. This is very important. You cannot rely on only one supplier concern. please ensure, do an audit of it to find out whether the company is not held to ransom by one particular supplier when materials are required to be procured. You need to have alternates of supply. Then inventory management, how efficiently the company manage the inventory, whether idle inventory procured and kept, which is not required, because there are times in the production flow, we like to have a lot of inventory at the back of it without appreciating or understanding the cost involved in it. That needs to be very clearly brought out and told to the management, but the inventory management is also very, very poor. Then payroll audit. Attrition rates. This is possible in a hotel industry where the attrition rates are very, very high. Suppose the other fellow pays 500 rupees more, he will run away. This needs to be very carefully controlled. That happens only when you engage the employee and make him believe that he is part of you and give him all the incentive concerns that it is brought down to acceptable levels. MIS. What is the system of monthly reporting they are reporting? As I told you, it is always better that department-wise budgets are prepared, and the monthly reporting system ensures that department MIS are prepared and given to the management so that better analysis and preventive actions are taken on a regular basis. That's what it means. Compliance, this of course, all these things are there. Risk-based, this is what I said. Risk identification of risks of affecting the organization, both internal and external. That example which I gave you of the mismanagement of the loyalty program is one such area. And plus another one is not forcing the risk of underquoting, despite the fact that it was very clear that the hotel is bound to lose revenue. This one risk management is affecting. Then plus the risk of the internal information of being leaked out by the employees concerned also are there, which affect the business very badly. And whether the company has got a risk management policy in force. Recently, when we did internal audit, when this question was raised, the company was bland in saying, we do not have any such policy in force. We think it is not necessary. We don't feel that any risk affects us. But then, when we started doing the internal audit, we pointed out to them about 15 type of risks they are exposed to. And it was pointed out to them which in turn, it affected them in various ways, not only in terms of revenue, in terms of information leaking, of internal policies being followed, the employee attrition, everything was brought out, which resulted in a big loss to the organization. Now they have agreed to put in place a risk management policy in force from the current year and start working on it. And who is the committee that is constituted for risk management, and how many times the committee has met? What are the risks perception that is brought to the committee, and what is the direction the committee gave? Risk management committee must constitute of people who are well versed in what is called a risk management, so that they are in a position to guide and control the risk management in a proper way. And needless to say, the chief risk officer is part of the committee and he helps the committee in running it efficiently. And with a risk mitigation policy covering entire organization, minutes of the meeting needs to be gone through. Audit of insurance. Now today, all kinds of insurance are floating in the market. Several competitions are there, and you can get the best amount of rates covering every aspect of your listing. You need to find out whether the company has gone in for proper negotiation with the concerned insurance, what is the policy they've taken, whether it is adequate to cover all the risks concerned, whether they export any risk from breach, not covering it, whether there is a risk associated with it. All this needs to be covered by the concerned listing. CSR policy. This is also become part of the internal audit testing now. Policy follows the organization, type of activity, whether it qualifies under prescribed norms, and the company needs to justify if it has not spent it within a specific period with the report, and that amount needs to be deposited to be used later. That needs to be seen. CSR committee needs to be followed, amount allocated, all those things have to be seen very clearly. Now, coming to this, summarization is, what should be the top characteristics of a good internal auditor? Curiosity, a keen ear, and the ability to ask good questions. How does it come? You need to develop that appetite to become curious on whatever you see. I should also know why it is so, why it should not be like this, what can be done to improve it, what is the thing which is not there. This kind of curiosity one has to develop, and a keen ability to analyze, and flexibility and adaptability. That is very, very important, because every situation is not the same. You need to be flexible to adapt yourself to the proper audit. Tolerance for stress. This is very, very important. Given the current perception which the management has about internal audit, which has moved away from the transactional based audit to cover corporate governance, risks, name whatever it is entering covering it. So the level of stress that is put on the internal audit is very, very huge. Unless you have the appetite to take it, you will not be able to do a proper internal audit. Empathy, this is very important. Please do not look at everyone as a person who is trying to do. It is not a fault finding exercise. We are trying to find out what has gone wrong with the system, and our objective is to point out the deficiencies so that it is for the good of the organization. The organization is able to benefit out of it for a better thing. So we need to empathize with each and every person. People are bound to make mistakes, but let us not find fault in that. Empathize with them, find out what could have caused that mistake and what can be done to avoid that mistake in future. That is what is important. And we need to motivate also on a regular basis. Bravery. We need not worry about anybody. We are given a task, and our this thing is to only report to the top management the findings and facts as what they are. There is no need to color it and give it to them to earn some brownie points. Absolutely not necessary. That's very important. Another thing, experience versus capabilities. This comes over a period of time. Capability is experience teaches you one thing. Capability is what you develop yourself as you go along. My suggestion will be, for instance, when I started my career as a chartered accountant, I started my career as an internal auditor. I worked in the department for about 3 years, after which I took on the role of CFO, etc. That 3-year period was a learning curve for me as to how industry works and what all things you need to understand. That I don't think I would have gained that perspective if I had straight away started as a finance professional. And begin with the end in mind, more attuned to the business, be quick to deliver. Today, you cannot say, I'll give the report after 1 month, after 15 days. The management wants the report on a periodical basis so that it adds value and helps them to take decisions on a quick basis. And let them look at you as a collaborative partner, not as a person who's trying to intrude and try to find out faults. It is for you to handhold the management to ensure that the system functions properly for the greater benefit. It needs to contribute to the bottom line as well as the top line equally. And a trusted advisor. Adopting technology as continuous improvement like AI. Becoming more comfortable with technology, recognizing that the workforce of future will change. This is very important. It is not going to remain the same what it is today. With technology taking over everything, you are going to find more and people working on technology only. So you need to change yourself accordingly and equip to do a proper systems audit. Recognize that the companies will evolve and change like never before, and we should match the speed. Prepare for the journey. This is a synopsis of it.
Yes, sir. It's you're exact on time.
Now, one more sheet is there. If you permit me, I'll read it out.
Yeah.
If you permit me.
Please go ahead, sir.
I'll just summarize the whole thing. To mention briefly, internal audit function has moved away from its traditional method. In tune with globalization of business, challenges and risks faced of internal audit is being redefined. Role is being redefined, sir. It is not a transactional auditing, it is moved away from that. You are expected to perform a role in a much larger way, which means you are also become part and parcel organization 24/7. You are expected to be available to them or they beck and call. Management looks at internal audit function deliver on, approaching the function on proactive basis. There is no postmortem involved anymore. You are required to do a pre-audit of things and be proactive and anticipate the risks that the company faces. And also suggest measures to mitigate them. So many regulatory obligations to be complied with. Internal audit is expected to set up a mechanism to ensure foolproof compliance and help identify new areas of compliances. Every day the law changes. I'll tell you a simple example. The hotel industry has to comply only with 123 regulations. Imagine the role of the internal auditor. You may have to employ one fellow only to see that he looks after the 123 regulations. At a drop of a hat, the authorities come and seal the place. It's very, very honest responsibility. We have a large role to play there. Do more detailed area of internal audit sensitive procurement policies, control budgeting, MAS mechanism, asset controls, review of funds management, to name a few. Increasing surveillance and corporate governance leading to best practices. Internal audit of corporate governance has assumed great importance. I think going forward, we need to spend quite a bit of time on ensuring the governance practice being followed by the company. because today the government and all the agencies concerned are keeping a very sharp eye. And tomorrow, as internal auditor, if you are not able to pinpoint the lapses, you will be hauled up, as mentioned by Mr. Jindal. You will find it very difficult to answer the authorities concerned. You have to be very clear. There are lapses. Please bring it out very clearly. And we are expected to be acting as a sounding board and help management navigate the choppy waters of business seamlessly. He'll be, as I told you then, IT skill. Okay, that's it. And it's better that we do a small due diligence of the functions concerned so that you're better equipped to conduct internal audit. That's it from me. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, sir, very much. Thank you very much. And patient hearing. I hope I met the expectations.
Definitely, sir. You have shared good insights. The thought of keep the end in mind and proactive, which is quite very important as with the perspective of an internal auditor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hereby, I would like to invite the next speaker of our session. Just a minute. Yep. It's really my pleasure and it's my privilege. With immense respect, I call upon the speaker for the session 3. He's a chartered accountant as well as a Dr. Paul Jaikar, sir. He'll be guiding us on how to secure our best friend of the day of today, that is mobile devices, mobile device security. Okay, yes. To introduce, sir, already the prior speaker has already introduced that the ex-chairman of ICI, he was a student of Jaikar, sir, but still I take my privilege to introduce him. He's a director of Information Technology and Risk Management Services at CNK and Associates, LLP, Chartered Accountants. He's an independent director of Panasonic Carbon India Company Limited. Past assignments, he was a director of IT and RMS, that is Risk Management Services, with Messrs. Brahmaiya and Company Chartered Accountants. He was a consultant to Messrs. Ernst and Young, EY, IS Security Division, consultant to Royal Soft Services Limited, Chennai, CTO Royal Soft Services Limited, Chennai. His work experience is a domain experience, system analysis and design, RBIA, BPR, ERP remediation, financial institutions, banking and NBFC, manufacturing, airports, seaports, service industry, infrastructure. He is being giving consultancy in digital forensic audits and analytics, business process reengineering, data analytics for business, risk-based internal audits. Security analysis includes security policies and procedures, document handling, contingency planning, security handbook, etc. The list goes on. So it seems that whenever I meet few youngsters, they ask me, what should we do? I always tell them you should go into artificial intelligence. And here I am reading about sir. I think sir is, 18 at heart and 18 at knowledge, maybe. So over to you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We are
Thank you.
eagerly waiting to hear him.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you so much. So the presentation, I'll get started with the presentation. So what we really need to understand is, here I'll just briefly define the word security. It does not mean our phones alone. The mobiles, actually it's a lot of technology development. Some of the mobiles are what we call a mobile. They can be as large as a tablet, or sometimes even a Chromebook, like a laptop, smaller laptops. Or they can be wearables also, like some of the watches. The new stand, they call them smart watches, but it doesn't matter what they are called. The whole thing gets smaller and smaller and gets more and more mobile. So that's the definition which I would like to work with. So very soon we may not have these laptop computers. They would all say, already youngsters are used to touch screen, and now we are moving to voice activated commands. So the biggest component in your laptop is the keyboard. Everything else can be shrunk, the display, the battery, the storage. The same keyboard, because it's on human fingers have to type on it. So very soon we'll see that we can use touchscreen like our phones, and we may not have what we today look at as a something we carry around. What you carry around may be on your wrist. It may be much smaller. It may be very tiny also. So with that background, I will start on the security. Already we have in the IRDA a separate committee which works on wearables. We're already having a lot of problems with these IoTs. They're called, okay, basically what it is, like a small transducer which sends signals out. It's called Internet of Things. But you can think of it as a small device. Maybe some of you already seen, you can open your car with the fingerprint, with your key or the remote. I mean, all kinds of things keep happening. Now, I mean, it's not really serious from the car or whatever. That's more the police or the law enforcement. The problem for the auditor is these mobile devices, the small ones, up to I'll take a Chromebook, are used to operate bank accounts, log into mail accounts, approve things in the ERP, or maybe even enter data. The whole, whatever used to happen in a mainframe, then in smaller computers, and then finally in the whatever the laptops, desktops today can happen on very small devices. Now that's where I thought we would quickly look at this. As all the speakers have told us already, internal auditors, external auditors, a lot of auditors, environment auditors, quality auditors, a lot of auditors, performance auditors. There's so many of them who depend on data from the computer systems, not data from printed records. We had this first speaker who told us the gate entry book. Now, suppose instead of the gate entry book, they went in for something which is a little smarter, like a FASTag or like reading a number plate, scanning the driver's Aadhaar card and the license for a QR code. Then what will happen is a lot of data will be automatically captured. If you don't swipe, then nothing will be captured. So there's no question of leaving a field blank and so on. So in many of the sites and even hotels I've seen, they ask you for a credit card just to swipe it for 1 rupee or whatever, just to make sure it's a valid card, it's not a stolen card and so on. So we know that data auditors keep struggling with data. Manually was a problem, but no, with the data systems we are using, like databases and cloud databases and public databases, this is getting worse and worse. Now let's quickly look at all our problems. One is this lock kind of symbol is a security. So that's a mobile device. Can be a phone, can be a watch, can be anything, a tablet. Nowadays, even in microfinance, they take a tab or a phone, photograph the meeting, and they upload it as evidence. Now we have got artificial intelligence software which views the pictures. Even CC camera footage is processed automatically. Humans don't watch those TV screens or monitors. So the auditor knows that, one, we work with a network. Now if you have a mobile which doesn't connect anywhere, then you can't make phone calls, not even SMS. So nothing can work. So obviously we know it has to connect at least to some network. And then of course that network may be internet, may be much bigger. So what are the risks we face there? Now, those of you who are using a lot of these smaller mobiles, I mean the powerful small mobiles, know that you don't need a credit card. If the card data is already loaded in your phone, bringing the phone close to the swipe machine is sufficient. They call it NFC, so I just expanded it as near field communication. So you have seen problems like your phone is in your hip pocket and this fellow holds a swipe machine behind your bag and he's stolen money. In India, the cap is 2,000 rupees. But there's some money, I mean, it's still money which is lost. Now, NFC is not just like we had FASTag for tolls. The government removed the FASTag now. Now, FASTag is going to be used in malls for parking, petrol bunks for payment, which means your data is not just restricted to the NHAI. Your data will be known to every mall server, wherever it's used. I mean, even school children, if they had attendance on a FASTag, that will get recorded. So this is one of the problems we have. Without physically touching something, data transfer is possible. We know Wi-Fi also, the same headache. Without physically touching something, data gets transferred. Now we are looking at all the problems. We have to come to the security part. Now, when you get to this part here, what we say is cyber criminals steal data from your NFC tags. Okay, what it means is when we say a public place, which is not necessarily a public place, when you're somewhere, even accidentally, if maybe another phone which had the pickup facility, the device, and another phone which had the transmitting facility, and both are on, and for some reason both owners just left it on, like a Bluetooth, you just keep it in the ear. Bluetooth is on all the time. You wear a watch, Bluetooth is on all the time. And if it pairs up with some other device, of course, theoretically, it will. Practically, it won't, because we have a huge combination, we say. But somewhere, it is possible that two MAC addresses were the same. Possible, like two people having same day birthdays, in a crowd. So it is possible. So we're not ruling that out. Accidentally also, this is intentionally, of course, cyber criminals are by intention. They are able to remove data from your device through whatever you connected, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, internet, whatever, through your device, which is now transmitting data at close proximity. They're able to pull things out from your system. So is it a physical theft? See, unfortunately, our laws are so antiquated. Of course, we still have seminars where the government will defend it, police will defend it. But see, we have to rewrite all these laws, because without the physical contact, if data is stolen, data is itself, intangible. There's no physical contact. The guy stole the data. Now, punishing him is going to be a lot difficult, because the judge wants hard evidence. If just because you walk next to someone doesn't mean you're a criminal. Now, if you look at the next 2 points which are added, now these are the controls. The auditor has to check these controls. Of course, they'll check for a software called MDM. It's called Mobile Device Management. The auditor will check those controls, whether the software is used or not. Now, one is you turn off the NFC and lock the device. Of course, many of us have auto off, so your phone will go off after some time. But many of them have auto start also. I don't know if you've seen settings, press any button to start. If you shake the phone, it'll start. They're nice settings, but try not to use them. And turn off the NFC reader. That is, you turn it on, make the payment, again turn it off. Now, even a simple thing like email, we log out of all the machines, but we never log out of the phone. Once it's on your phone, particularly Android phone, the Gmail is always on. It's a good habit to log out, but again, you have to log in. So that is the headache we have. The other is use anti-static bags. Now they sell purses and phone covers, which don't allow this signal, wireless signal, to move out. Anyway, these are the controls. The standard auditor will check all these. But then the effectiveness of the control is only if the user really complies and uses these rules, or that wallet cover or whatever. Now, if you look at the Wi-Fi side of it, you can pick up Wi-Fi data from, it's actually a sniffer is, today they have what is called drive-through hacking. You drive, D-R-I-V-E. So the fellow sits with a laptop in the car, and let's say his friend is driving him down a road. He's looking for networks. Any device will show you networks available. And he looks for networks without passwords. The moment he finds one, or maybe he can break the password also, he logs into it, and sitting outside your premises on the public road, he's able to pick up signals and steal data. Now, what do we keep on our phones? It's got everything actually. If the phone is connected up to apps to the bank, it's connected up to apps through your Gmail, any mail. It's connected by apps to your SAP, or there's so many ERPs which allow mobile, including Power BI and MIS and so on. The sniffer can pick up whatever he wants. So this is the vulnerability. The exclamation mark is the vulnerability. Next is any online activity he can start viewing. So he starts, because we say in forensic, if your card is being used when you don't normally use it, like say midnight, It's a suspicious activity. So what this fellow does, he studies when you use a credit card. And at that timing, once he captures, he will also steal only during that time. So the card company's pattern analysis is not showing a suspicious pattern. Now, these are all, criminals who get better and better. And then don't connect to unknown Wi-Fi or wireless networks. That includes now they may offer Wi-Fi in your trains. They already offer it in some of your Ola taxis. Best is not to connect. It doesn't matter if you pay a little more money. Use your own connection. Buy it from a service provider. Don't fall for this free Wi-Fi trick. So actually, even if they don't steal your data, they will get your phone credentials. May not be misused, but it's an irritation. They'll send you a birthday card, and the next time you come, they'll say, welcome to this mall or welcome to our station. So they need not know. So you can turn it off. But one of the recent experiments showed that if you have a Google phone, Android operating system phone, if you turned off the Wi-Fi and the internet, it still sends signals because it uses that ADC and the newer AGPS and so on. It still sends signals to Google service. Then the research team physically powered off the phone. Unfortunately, the batteries are not removable in the new phone. Old phones, you could pull them out. New phones, you can't. Even after powering it off, there's a button which says turn off, power off. Powering it off also, Google was able to pick up minimum information on your travel. So, which means your phone can transmit even if it's technically switched off or it's like gone into standby or whatever you did. Flight mode or so many ways. So we really don't want, just don't carry the phone with you. But anyway, that's not practical. But we can look at some controls to minimize the loss. We can't prevent it completely, but yes, we can minimize it. Now, if you look at, anyway, these are the legends of privacy and the, how to stop. The ones with this thumbs up symbol is for the auditors, and the ones with the exclamation mark are the things which can go wrong. What can go wrong? Kind of a lot of things go wrong. So we know that we have to be clear in the safety which we are following. Now, the next set of problems we have is from the device itself. Earlier, we just now saw that you can lose data from a device which is connected to some place. Now, what we are saying is you could lose data from your device itself. So how do we manage to do that? So we have got various things, and finally everything boils down to the connectivity. You have to connect to someone, at least a cell connection provider like BSNL or Airtel or someone. And then the problems with their devices, one, you could lose it. When you say stolen, sometimes it may not be physically stolen. It may be just left accidentally somewhere. You may go and get it back. But before you go and get it back, somebody who knows the subject has already meddled with it. Now, this is something which I have to be careful about. Giving devices to children, giving devices to staff, servants, whatever. It's for a genuine reason. You ask them to do something, but better you don't do that. Then how do we keep our data safe? One is you built in lock options, right from login to PIN numbers to etc. So if somebody got your device legally or illegally, you can't open it. So as they come back to you and say, don't give him the PIN number, don't give him the password. In fact, your phones can set passwords. They're too long, so we forget them. But anyway, if you have got a password, you type the password. Don't let him type it on his own. Then you activate this remote data destruction. You need a software for it. It's called MDM, as I told you, mobile device management. So the moment you realize you forgot a phone in a friend's house or you left it in a taxi, not necessarily a theft, it may come back to you. But the moment you realize it's not with you, you activate this to wipe off all the remote data and those apps which have been included in that sandbox. So they are no longer active. Nothing happened. Just forgot. Somebody brings it back. Still, not to take a chance, you destroy all the data. You can put it back later. You can have a cloud backup or some other facility. Then use an app that can remote wipe. Today, that's almost the same thing. Uh, Software is available. Then you also install a locator app which tries to find your phone, because between forgetfulness and theft, difference is very small. A thief also steals your phone. Sometimes we drop it and accidentally leave it somewhere. Whatever it is, try to see if you can locate the phone. If you cannot, then wipe off all the data. Now, will this data work even if you switched it off? Well, it will, because once the signal is generated to wipe it off, when he powers it up again, it will wipe it off. I mean, the moment he tries to boot it, it will just wipe the whole thing off. Now, I mean, one thing is these, if an office puts these software on an employee's device, as per the latest laws, we have to get the employee's consent, or we have to refuse the employee, and we have to prevent the employee from bringing that device to work. This bring your own device was a very popular thing. I mean, at one time, because the devices were expensive. So they said you bring your own phone, own computer, company saved some money. But now there's no money to be saved. So there are a lot of risks to be taken, financial risks, because data is money. So most companies don't bother about this BYOD. They'll say, we'll give you the phone and the laptop, you use it. If you lose it, we'll wipe it off, we'll manage it, etc. So first we had a look at the connections and the problems. Now we are looking at the device itself being lost, misused, stolen, borrowed. I mean, a lot of things. So you would like to have all these safety in place. To summarize these 4 points, it's called MDM, Mobile Device Management. Of course, it's a management's call to put it. Auditor cannot insist, but auditor can point out what can go wrong. So that's something which we look at. Now, the next problem is when we have these internet browsing, you go to these sites, apps, etc. I mean, including banks. I mean, this is a ready-made slide, so it's got shopping in it. It can be anything. You people, I mean, the banks tell the customers, check your statement through your phone app. Credit card payments, they say, make it through the phone app. Almost everything goes to the phone app now, including your web check-in and so many things. Okay, shopping is just, we're not criticizing shopping. We've got so many things which we can do with the phone. Now, once you get into one of these sites, you're booking online web check-in, booking a railway ticket, buying something, checking your bank statement or balance. Now, what will happen is the website you're connecting to may be a dishonest website. Now, how does that happen? There are many ways it happens. One, and the simplest, is called social engineering, where somebody calls you, sends a false SMS, sends a false mail saying that, look, something is pending, your money is pending, your account is blocked, please activate, do something. Then we send something and get into trouble. The second form is that guy attacks your phone, leaves malware inside. Okay, that is a possibility, but if you don't use any unknown apps or risky apps, that can't happen. So what can happen is you're logging into what we think is a genuine site, and we typed Amazon.com or some payment site. What happens is, one is you mistyped and went to wrong site. But also people have stopped now, they put bookmarks and all that. What can happen is a thief has temporarily stolen that Amazon IP in a particular location. Let's say a city of Bombay, it's a big city. And he has put that IP address on his own server temporarily for a few minutes or whatever, seconds today. Anyway, it'll take minutes. So anybody working or making payments to that Amazon site who are redirected to a payment gateway, etc., invariably land up with a fraud site. They'll type something wrong. They'll get some OTP, fake OTP. They won't see where it came from, so they'll type that also. And then that fellow steals the money. Now, how common, how easy is it? Now, this is easy because one, servers get cheaper. Thieves are also learning, because just like they steal cars and for counterfeit currency, they're also getting literate. And the major problem here is we don't check something twice. If it's we know some page colors like ICAI.in, the page looks like something. Or we look like, let's say, Flipkart, some yellow color comes, it's Flipkart to us. We don't really carefully read. Now, that is where I want you to read. Of course, that's over suspicious, but anyway, what to do when there are thieves, you got to be careful. Make sure the site looks genuine. If you find English mistakes or if you find it doesn't look normal, looks changed, then don't use it till you get a positive confirmation. Then you bookmark a trusted site, and this fellow has stolen your bookmarks. Web browsers also have vulnerabilities, and once he can steal your bookmarks, he sets up a server with that address, or he modifies your bookmarks. Now, see, in a computer, you can put all kinds of things: firewall, some virus scanner, this, that, something. Now, on your mobile device, as it gets more, see, even a phone, we have got some virus device, antivirus device software. We got this firewall. On a wearable watch, what can we put? I mean, it doesn't even have a proper keyboard. So as your devices get smaller, portable, convenient, thefts will also become, for the thief, it also becomes more convenient. And that's why we say only use trusted apps. But in the recent past, Google removes apps because they contain malware. Government of India has banned a lot of these apps. In fact, the online credit apps from they say Chinese, but okay, earlier we used to say Nigerian fraud for email. Now for apps, we say Chinese, but it doesn't necessarily have to come from China or Nigeria. They may be using those servers running software in the background to attack systems. They got a lot of problems here. So the point is, don't take an untrusted app, take it only from the legal site, like a Play Store or Apple, whatever store. And in case there's a problem, they'll tell you to take it down. Then you can immediately uninstall the app, download the fresh one. So you have to be very careful here. So anyway, the point now is, if you are using your phone to go online, not the shopping, just go online and do a lot of things. Even your Facebook, Twitter, there's so many things people do with their phones. These are the things which can go wrong. And again, of course, theft will take place and problems coming. Now, the gaming part of it. Now, who plays games? Sometimes I see even, I mean, it's an entertainment. It's not boring. You're sitting in a shop. Somebody's gone shopping. You may play a card game or something you'll be playing with. Children, of course, they use games quite a lot. Now, games do a lot of things without your permission. One, they can, because in the installation time, you'd have said, I agree, without reading anything. In part of the agreement, they would have put all your scores and who you are and where you're playing from on social media sites. Now, this is the game site you have to check. It's a dangerous thing. You got to be careful. The other explanation mark here is data stealing apps. The worst was that Pegasus, which the Israeli government developed. They said they sell it only to government, which means government spies on other governments. If that app comes into your phone, it's stealing everything. Okay, then that's the worst. But they have smaller level malware apps where thefts are like smaller. Okay. So when you put these free games or even subscriber games, we don't know, we can't trust the subscriber unless it's coming from the store's official site. You put these games, you're in trouble because one, social media is tracking you. Two, it's also stealing a lot of information. And somewhere if you make a payment, it's stolen your bank credentials also. Now this is now a human issue. You have to decide whether playing games, particularly if you're playing with another player on the internet, whether it's worth the risk, because you can't prevent, there's no known safety method. This is to refrain. Like if you know an area has got pickpockets, then try not to go there in the nighttime. So I mean, it's only a decision. And this one here is you check the app. That's the same as the previous one. Make sure the app is genuine. So now we got a big problem. If we are, because sometimes now I'm finding management institutes, a lot of our training institutes, they call it gamification. So you play in the house. It's called a cohort group. They're all a group of students from their own homes and wherever they are offices. They join a business game. We don't know if the game is a business game or it's some thief on the internet who posted something that looked like that university, let's say X university. He puts a thing with a maybe an XY name and people didn't read. Nice management game. Stealing data is causing trouble on the internet. Okay, and just to explain the social media, why do we do a social media audit? We get a lot of profiling from there. So in the US visa, for the last 4 or 5 years, they check the social media also before they grant the visa. So some silly post here when you're much younger will affect your H1 or L1 visa. You won't get it because it's showing some terrorist or some country where you're not supposed to be connecting up to, and those kind of problems. So people ask, how do I set it right? In the credit scores, people do a little bit of juggling and set it right. But these ones, social media is very difficult. Even governments find it difficult to take posts off the social media sites. So we got to be very careful there. Now, if you look at the third one, which is known social networking, not through a game, but everybody has a LinkedIn, a Facebook, or something or the other. You go to a place, he says, I don't use visiting cards, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't trust them. I mean, first check the credentials. So here what happens is, one, you post too much about yourself. In fact, income tax, as you know, somebody told us they check with the AI and ML. If you keep posting, you got a new car, a new house, you'll invariably end up with a notice. So there's a banks also do that. When borrowers disappear, to trace them when they post from some other place. One fella ran up to Australia and he posted, I bought a house. They caught him. So one is too much about ourselves, which we get into trouble, or somebody else is watching us and then they misuse the information. So don't share details about addresses, homes, social events, number of children, whatever. I mean, what problems you have, like diabetes or something. Don't share anything. Just check your business profile or whatever and leave it at that. And with that to minimum. Another danger here is the terms and licenses. They'll simply say update, I'm updating something, we click it. Now they take your data and sell it off officially because you agreed to it. So now even in India, you have to get a consent form. We're still educating all our Indian users that if you take something on the website, you have to use it only for the reason you took it, unless you got a consent form from the user saying you can do other things with. Like let's say a company took an Aadhaar card number and for some loan or something, they can use it only for that. If they try to use it for further verification, they must come back to you, get your permission, and then do it. But a lot of people don't read the acts, so they're making mistakes. They can be sued or whatever. And check all your privacy settings on this social network. What does it mean? Your achievements will not be seen by everybody. Your prize or your degree or whatever, some award we got, only your friends will see it. Public cannot see it, but it's safer, much, much safer. So there are cases where people have used dead people's accounts to commit crime. Crime means stealing something. They have used some degrees of some, I mean, you got a good degree somewhere. They've stolen all the credentials, including the certificate number, forged it, and then used it. See, most of the time they find this out very, very late. You'll be surprised, even in the US, only the time they really find out. After they give you a visa when you have a good social media, I mean, there's no adverse report on the social media. The only time they really find out is when your green card or your citizenship application comes up 10 years later. Then they find something seriously wrong. So I'm using the US example because it's transparent. I'm sure everybody does it. I mean, I'm sure Indian government also must be doing a lot of this data scavenging. Now, when it comes to mobile browsing, a lot of data is stored in browsers. Now we know browsers, so sometimes we clean it up. So after you browse, you can clear it up. You go incognito mode or use an anonymous browser or something like that. Otherwise, your history will hold everything. So what you're asked to do is clear cache and cookies, don't track, etc., etc. Now, problem is, if I clear all the cookies, etc., suppose I'm typing something and I put G and the Gmail comes automatically, or I'm paying something, some payment, I type some letters and it automatically turns up. If I go and clear off all these cookies and history and temp files and everything, Each time you have to type. That's the same problem with the mobile. If you log out of your account every time, you have to log in. Same thing happens. So people like the browser to keep the history. Again, this is a conscious decision we have to make. In banking software, because the RBI gives a lot of directives, IRDA, PFRDA, TRAI, where there are no regulators like manufacturing. We have other regulators like factory inspectors and safety inspectors. They don't have all this. Only these online fintech, regtech, insurtech. They say your history should not work, your back button should not work, etc. Other companies, there's no such regulation. So the auditor has this very difficult task convincing, I wouldn't even say the user, but convincing the audit committee, because the question they ask is, I mean, anyway, I'm not blaming all audit committees, but most audit committees, okay, if I don't do this, what is my penalty? How much fine should I pay? Okay, I got a 100 crore business, I got a 10 lakh fine, I'll pay it. I mean, IT Act, something, data lost, 20 lakhs fine, I paid. I'm doing 100 crores business. But the problem is, that's the situation. They don't look at the non-compliance is not taken very seriously, except maybe very large companies and MNC companies. Most of the time, it's only the financial burden which is looked at. So you'll have to convince them this is beyond financial burden. Loss of data is pretty serious. Okay, so now we have the next one, which is your photos. Now, photos, as I told you, can be scanned by software. You Google, you'd have seen. You put a person's face and it'll search all photos with the same face. That's a fairly accurate match. We can check CCTV, it's called digital signal processing or image signal processing. So what happens is when you keep posting a lot of pictures online, then one is, of course, they may misuse your picture, but that's the lesser part of it. The bigger headache we have is photos can be matched. So I get a photo of an author from the back of the book. Then I trace this thing on social media. Then from the social media site, I'm able to track where he is. And then from there, I can start working on his email, etc. This is called footprinting. It's called advanced persistent threats. Now, what happens is even before your next book is out, somebody has pirated it and distributed it on the internet. These discussions come up regularly, music, content, movies, books, whatever. I mean, today everything is digital. So we had to be very, including invitation lists. People are stealing databases of directors of, companies. They're stealing employee poaching. It's called recruitment problems. Recruiters steal data. They have data. PhD students keep copying. So there's an anti-plagiarism software. You have to be a little careful here. So pictures, since they are processed using software, it's not like I have a million pictures, I don't have time to see it. Computers work with it and take it out. A machine language works with all kinds of files. That's the big data advantage. But here is the disadvantage. And then we come back to the apps again. Don't use any freeware apps. There's nothing free in the world except open source, but then that's very difficult to use. But you have to use it. As auditors, I think we need to learn that. So free apps always bring some malware with them and they'll steal something. So they can even take control of your phone's camera. Actually, while we do these Zoom sessions or these WebEx sessions, your camera is an IoT on your laptop or desktop on your phone. The rest of the machine has one port number. The camera has a different port number. Guys can steal the camera. But that's got good uses also. When you're writing an online exam, camera is used for proctoring. That is watching you if you're cheating or something. The rest of your machine is sending the answers, getting the questions. It's got good things also, but then a thief can always misuse it. That doesn't mean disable the camera and stop. But what we are now doing is we monitor the camera port also through the firewall or whatever safety device we have. Then we have apps which are very specifically written to find only sensitive data. What it does is, it runs your entire address book, but only finds passwords. It runs your entire, whatever you have stored on your machine, your WhatsApp, it only finds the office messages or downloaded PDF files or something very specific. That's called targeted thefts. Now, since that is possible, we say use a security app, but remember that the more security you put on a device, the slower it will become. So we have to consciously decide do we really need all this free stuff? So, I mean, it's okay if it's a student or something, but not if you're a serious user. Better not to have too much free stuff on your machine. Now we go to the next part where we have to look at the mobile storage. Now we got all kinds of storage now. You got cloud storage, you got storage on your phone, you got storage which you can stream from your phone to wherever you want. Okay, there are a lot of options available. You buy my mail account, I'll give you 1 terabyte somewhere in the cloud. Okay, all kinds of storages we have. One is your own stored data. That is, you put it either comes built in like 64 GB or some huge quantity of GB, or you put add-on cards. That means it's sitting in the machine in your own mobile device. And then, of course, also you are aware that your wearables also transmit personal data like heartbeat, and the new Apple Watches can check your sugar level also through your sweat. It also tells you how many steps you're walking. And if your GPS and the steps are coordinated, we'll know where exactly you're walking, where you're going, taking shortcuts, all kinds of stuff you'll end up with. So you can steal a lot of stored data from mobile devices. So we say again, use a firewall kind of thing or a security app. But then we also need to understand stolen devices, they also take the media. There are a lot of cases where people are given their mobiles for service, and then the data has been stolen. Okay, if they steal some pictures or something, they go to blackmail. But that's a different case, a more criminal. But corporate thefts are when your phone lands up in the mobile shop, the fellows completely steal your address book, your passwords, many of you will have passwords for the ERP, for the mail account, for various things. All that is downloaded and stolen. Because not you, but somebody would have, senior man would have sent the mobile through his driver or through his secretary to the mobile shop. It's not the safest thing to do, and the mobile fellow and this person who brought the phone get together, and there's problems after that. Then again, if you have a stolen device, earlier I told you MDM, remote wipe of data, take a safety that the machine is useless. But here we're talking about your backing up regularly. Okay, whichever way it is, the data is corrupted, backup will work. If data is stolen, better to wipe it off and then take a new device and restore the backup. This is happening, but most people don't complain because it's embarrassing. In India, we have only the public sector, we get all the data from. Private companies, mostly they hide this up. Now we look at the next part where we have got the communications part of it. That's a normal, whatever we do. We send email, phone calls, chat, SMS, etc. Now, all these, earlier SMS could not do anything, but now, because of the government's rules on cashless payments, SMS can also activate transactions in the banking system. And you can look at the cashless system webpage, and NPCI has gone ahead with the blockchain system for it's called Vajra for the payment gateways and payment transfers. The only thing RBI washed their hands off on GPay, they said, we are not responsible. It's a little hard to understand. That's why I said the acts are very old. GPay is a very popular form of payment. Now we say UPI linked, but the RBI says I'm not responsible. But then rest of the stuff, they are responsible. So we're not sure how much of regulations, even as an auditor, we have this confusion. Who regulates what? I mean, who's regulating SMS? Who's regulating chats? WhatsApp, suddenly they'll say, we'll ban it. Next day they say it's okay. Then phone calls. Who's monitoring it? Of course, government has a right to monitor 10% of the phone calls at random. Email. Sometimes we say, okay, we'll seize the server and all that. But then it all depends. If you use the right protocol, you can download the data from the server into your system. Then the government said, no, if you're an email provider, you have to keep backup of all the mails. Well, you can backup. In one case, we found the Exchange server was the wrong version. Recovery of backup was a nightmare. Okay, anyway, say I'm giving you all the negative stuff, but problem for the poor auditor is, whatever he's trying to do, the control has a cost. So the company may or may not accept the control, saying that, okay, we'll take the risk. It's called risk appetite, risk tolerance. I'll give some names for it. But then if the appetite is wrong, the auditor, particularly the internal auditor, has to point it out, and the external auditor will take cognizance of it. And then the rest of it is left to the management of the company, the directors, the governance aspect. So when we do all this, what we find is there are people who actually, just like we had website phishing, they could be actually listening in on your calls. They can clone SIM cards. They can do lots of stuff. Only thing is, if you're using WhatsApp, then it is encrypted end to end, for which the government is again saying they must be given the decryption keys. BlackBerry was kicked out of India because they refused to part with their decryption. So that's why it went off. We have these arguments going up and down. Don't have too many acts. And now, the from what we call the Data Privacy Act became the data bill, became the Data Protection Bill. Now it's all gone. So the bill is have to be done because most of this data is seen by the government. So they don't want to restrict privacy anymore. Anyway, keep all these in mind when you're doing your audit because some of your companies may have to report to foreign. I mean, they may be getting foreign investment, foreign stock exchange listing, various requirements. So how do we kind of solve this problem? You never respond to unknown senders. Don't. Even, I'm not talking about messages, even calls. That's why in corporate, we tell them if you get a call from an unknown number, don't take the call. Send a message from another machine, or if your machine is secure, send it saying who is it. Otherwise, don't take the call. They never respond to unknown senders. You don't respond to give out any credentials. Even if it's an SMS, don't click on anything. Never click on unknown links. Always log out of email accounts. Okay, that's not just email. Any account, where like a bank account or any account, even an Ola account. Actually, even if you see, frankly, I don't log out of the Ola account. But better to log out. Again, you have to log in. Every time you turn it on, you have to log in. Then don't save any passwords in the app. Most of us just leave it there. So controls wise, it's all more of it looks like philosopher's advice, but somewhere even the simple, not the smartphones, these are all the dumb phones also. They're not called dumb phones, they're old phones. If we simply have just phone call and SMS, even that can be hacked today. If you look at the next one, now we are kind of just summarizing what we said all this time. So one is if you're getting, you have a nice modern device which can start sending data out just because it's near you, like your Bluetooth or whatever NFC or whatever the technology you have, or even Bluetooth headphones, for instance, they're always on. People don't switch it off. Wearables. Now these are the risks and these are the solutions. Now, second is we said if you're going to put a lot of stuff into your device and then go lose the device or do something with it, make sure you have something which can destroy the data and create a clean phone. Like a reset, like a factory reset. Then what we said was that if you're working with all these apps and all the convenience devices, in fact, you find even if you go to shopping site, it'll say, if you buy this on the app, you'll get a better discount. When you go to your Citibank card, it says pay through the app, you'll get something, bonus points or whatever. Everybody's trying to push you to the app. They said, don't even call a help desk, use the app. Now, the problem is that when the app is chatting, it's a bot at the other end, it's a program. If you make a voice call also, most probably the other side is a software with voice synthesis. So only if you hear some real human voice with all mistakes in English, then you know, yes, this guy is a human being. So we are having more and more problems here. How do we find a bot? How do we check whether the other side is a machine or a human being? Now, these are all the kind of safety stuff. One, you get into trouble with your, I wouldn't say shopping, but any kind of online transactions. Then you get into trouble with games, but this may not affect most of the older people. But if the people they introduce gamification, that is learning management system, employees are asked to upskill themselves regularly. And part of the training is playing games, collective games, where all the employees join the group and play, watch out for those games. Then, of course, we have this networking, we sharing data, social media, we know. Then mobile browsing, it also we know, because the moment you say something, they open the web page, they've checked everything out. Some of them even scan the QR code to open the web pages. And this side, we got this photo sharing. I've seen events, photos being taken, shared on the WhatsApp or some Facebook or something, or Snapchat for younger people. Now that's again a big serious problem. Then we have the apps. Of course, apps are going to be all over. Apps are applications, so that's what runs your phone. And then we look at this mobile storage. Today, as I told you, battery is not removable. Storage also is not removable. So there's no way to make your phone go dead. There's no way to make your storage completely unplugged when you send it for service. There's nothing we can do. So we have to live with it. And then we have the last one where you have all your communication channels, even your small old phone, which is not a smartphone, like a Nokia or a Motorola or something, even just the phone call and the SMS, because the government has now made this cashless payments almost mandatory. Those phones are also included in the gambit of our study. So this is all the, I'm giving you in one slide, all the different, what should we say, weaknesses a device will have. The exclamation marks are the weaknesses. The thumbs up is the protection. So if you're writing a checklist, or they call it an RCM, risk and control matrix, the exclamation mark is the risk. And these are the tests we have to do, whether the person has this control or doesn't have the control. If he has the control, is it effective, not effective? For instance, here we said somewhere when you play a game, now we said you decide whether it is worth the privacy risk here, this point. Now that's a decision you're leaving to the end user, your staff, when they are working on a learning and development or a learning management system. Now, do you want to leave that decision to the staff? Then how do we know the control is working, not working? So, because in any RCM test, you have to say control, evaluate the control and say, yes, it's working. No, it's not working. So now we have a kind of clear idea on where we are. So now we can, this slide kind of summarizes all the problems. Don't restrict this to a mobile device. Very soon you won't have laptops. You'll have these tablet-like stuff then, or you'll have the other extreme, a watch, a pen or something. Pens are the worst. They get lost easily. Watch, at least you can strap it to your hand or somewhere. But not that a watch is safe. I mean, even that is not safe. But anyway, we can't stop technology. So auditors have to move with it. So there's no way we can stop, because in many, I don't know, I've seen so many places where people swipe the phone. They use the phone for sending something. Even before you finished asking, is busy sending it to you. So if your phone doesn't have it, you can't see it. People don't believe in writing, sending, stamping, signatures. They've forgotten all that. But we are still talking about authorization, authentication, credentials, levels of approvals, segregation of duties. How do we manage all that here? Now, you can have a phone where somebody will approve whether you can send a mail or not. Maybe in a real email system with a computer, yes, but not with these mobile devices. And now I find people even taking pictures of documents like a mark sheet or a certificate, convert it to PDF and they mail it off. So no control over anything. Whereas if you have big desktop scanner, it'll ask you for a password. What will a phone ask you for? Nothing. Now, will you trust such documents? Will you accept such documents? Because on the other end, I find once you get a PDF document, the RPA will read it, pick up all the information, dump it into the screens, and the ERP starts processing it. It's very fast. I mean, no doubt about it. It's very fast. But would you trust this system? I have to, because that's why they put an auditor in charge. So we have to give a certificate saying that, yes, your system is safe or it's not safe. I mean, that's the result of, final conclusion of any audit report. Assurance or advisory, one of the two things. Okay, so I think I can stop here if I'll stop the share. I'll send the slide thing also. I can take your questions. I think all the faculty are available.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, you have just said about, after seeing all this, I could just sense how much risk I'm carrying in my pocket, So it's what I can say, it's a coin having two sides. We can't avoid it, right? but we have to take care. Yeah, I'll just look upon if for the questions. One question, CA Chanmesh Kumar sir, he has raised how to get this opportunity. I think so. This question was raised in the first session. I hope, because it's not clear. One question is from V. Subramania Iyer. Can you explain current trend, status of application of data, analytic, artificial intelligence, blockchain in performance of internal audit function?
Yeah, okay, I'll start first. See, unfortunately, we have no choice over the choice of technology. That's the problem we have. I mean, that's not just for India, I mean, worldwide. Now, when you get a motor car and if you're going to change to an electric vehicle, it's not your choice. The government said, this is the rules, this is the pollution, whatever, you have to change. Now, your mechanic has to change, the driver has to change, the owner also has to change, everybody's got to change. Petrol bunks have to change. Now, that's what they use the new word ecosystem and the environment and so on. Now, if an auditor refuses to change, I always give this example, we have dinosaurs which did not adapt to the change in the environment. So the only place we see them now is in the museum. They make a model of it. Now we shouldn't be seen in the museums as this was an auditor. So we have to be relevant. So we have to keep learning. That's something we should never stop. Even if you retire, even if you're young, you're old, doesn't matter. Just keep learning. I mean, till you're alive, you keep learning. So this is something which we need to learn. The other side is, how do we learn? Because it's a completely different story. Now, when you go to blockchain, they talk about triple entry system. Now, when not just blockchain, even if you went to machine learning, we use a lot of statistics because when we teach these credit card frauds, we do a lot of statistical methods that we apply. Now, we need to slowly learn maths for commerce people. I mean, we have to build it up. I mean, instead of building an aversion for it, we have to build it up because one of these days, if you see what the Prime Minister said and Niti Ayog site, it says very clearly, you cannot have a bank branch. That is, we have no more branches will not exist, but banking will exist. That's the word they have put there. Of course, in the translation, I'm giving the English part of it. But what they're saying is you can do your banking, but do it through your phone, an ATM or computer or some way you do it, but don't come to the branch because there's no branch. Now we need to learn. I mean, banks, we understand as auditors, but there are so many things like phone companies, in fact, spectrum audits, that we thought this was only for the big four. But what is happening is when they put those tenders and people pick up the tender, the technology is important. Of course, we can write checklists. I'm distributing a lot of them. But then we also have to learn a little bit about technology. I guess that's compulsory, sir. You can also add to it, sir. Subramaniam, sir.
Yes, sir. I absolutely agree with you. Because gone are the days when you can conduct audits based on the documentations you require, like building up piles of papers. Those days are gone. You need to be tech savvy because today internal audit is data driven. You have to gather a lot of data, present it in a coachable fashion, people understand. First, for that, you need to equip yourself as to how to understand, analyze, plot the data. That's very important. Otherwise, you will become irrelevant. And as you correctly said, you will be in a museum saying this was called internal auditor. Once upon a time, they do not exist anymore. There is no escape. Whatever may be the age, I entirely agree with you. We need to reinvent ourselves. We keep learning ourselves so that we stay relevant for the current day time and for future also. It's absolutely important. I entirely agree.
Okay. Can I take the next question, please?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Sumit Jain sir has raised an issue. He says even after turning off Wi-Fi, it automatically gets switched on and connected to open network Wi-Fi nowadays. As when we go to some airport maybe or some mall maybe, directly it fetches the information. And we directly get connected to that Wi-Fi many a times.
I think that Paul sir explained it. It gathers data even offline. That is an inbuilt mechanism in Android phones.
So
you can't
actually,
help it, sir. It gathers data.
What happened, sir, in this FASTag when they removed, the minister said they'll use GPS. But then they found in the new cars, the new cars which are being sold, the entertainment system and the GPS system come on the same screen.
Hmm.
So your music and your map comes on the same screen. And people who buy them, if they can afford it, they change the entertainment system, mess up the GPS because I have a separate phone for the GPS. And then the government cannot pick up your GPS data. So they said we are going back to the number plate scanning and some other system. So it will happen, sir. So whatever you do, they'll find some way to beat it. So
One
and
more-
never leave anything on auto connect and auto this.
Yes.
All autos must be off.
Okay.
That's what we say as an auditor, but it's hard because every time you have to turn it on.
Next issue being raised again by Subramania Iyer sir. Granting permission for apps. If you don't give permission in many cases, you cannot proceed to install the app. How to overcome the problem?
That means you have to be careful with that app. Why is it asking? Because some of the apps, it'll ask you, I want to use your camera, I want to use your address book.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely no need for that app to take your address book or your camera. Then don't install it. Look for a safer version. Generally, an app should not ask more. That is, we say, principle of least privileges. Only the minimum it should ask for. If it's
According to me,
asking you-
sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
think basically around 2-3 questions only it asks. If it asks more than that, you need to be careful.
yes, sir.
Be
Yes.
very careful about that app. Don't install and get into problem.
Many
Yes.
times you also use some sites, and over there they ask to accept the cookies, or they won't go ahead.
It doesn't matter. You find better sites now. Genuine sites.
Last weekend I was just weaving through that Puma cookie, that app and that site, and it was asking to accept the cookie, or it was not showing its products.
Product. Otherwise, what you do is, if you accept, also clean it up when you finish.
Yeah,
The moment you browse, clean it up.
Regularly clean it up.
Yes. Yes.
correct, correct.
Okay.
Regular cleaning is required.
Yeah. Sir, few participants has asked they have been requesting to ask you people that will you share the PPTs, please?
Yes, yes. I'll send
Yes.
it to your.
Yes, yes. I have already sent it, sir.
Yes, IASB. So
I
no, no
already sent
problem.
It
Nothing
can be
secret.
shared.
Everything is
Sir,
for.
knowledge is for
Yeah.
sharing.
So nice of you. I'm not finding any more questions. So shall we proceed to end the session?
Yes,
I
yes,
give a word of thanks. I hope Mr. Agarwal, I need to confirm whether Misra ji is present, or should I conclude? Okay. It was a great session of learning. In the end, what I remember one of the story after communicating with Paul sir, Subramaniam sir, Jain sir, there was an incident where Einstein was sitting in the university's bus stop, and he was with his own old coat and all, with some books, and one gentleman, maybe like me, he was sharp and all, and he was standing. So उन्होंने काफी गलत नजर से Einstein के पास देखा, because Einstein was, he was always in his work. And that smart guy, after, he was waving at Mr. Einstein. Mr. Einstein himself, he asked, "Gentlemen, what do you do?" So that smart guy was carrying a book, and that book had a photo or a name of Einstein, not photo, a name of Einstein itself. But that, young guy said, "I am a master of physics." After a while, the young man asked Mr. Einstein, "You old man, what do you do?" Mr. Einstein said, "I am a student of physics." So yeah, we need to be students, after hearing the views of Paul sir, Subramaniam sir. Actually, I was feeling like I am updated guy, and you guys are more.
No, it's not like that. We keep learning, sir. We keep
Yeah.
reinventing ourselves.
So it's a big
Learning never ends, never ends.
Yeah, we should keep on learning on daily basis, and we should guide our.
Things are changing so dynamically and fast.
Yeah.
We are always outdated.
And the only thing constant is change.
Exactly. And we need to adapt it.
Yeah,
Never resist change.
Yeah.
That is very dangerous.
Very, very dangerous. Yes. So it was immense knowledgeable session, sir. Thanks for your views. And I hope all the participants will use this right from this evening, not even from tomorrow. At least after this session, we should clear our cookies and all those. Okay. So thank you so much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity also. Thank you.
A request to Shivani. Is it possible to share the recording, madam?
Hello.
Is it possible to share the recording?
Sir, I will share the recording brochure.
Please,
Not
please.
recording.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
fine. Okay, fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.